Chapter 2576. Wait until you reach the Nine Heavens realm. Why don't you say wait until you reach the imperishable realm? The blood-eyed leopard sneered. Imperishable realm? The madman's heart shook as he said in surprise, is there an imperishable realm expert here? I was just joking, did you really take it seriously? How can there be an imperishable realm expert in the Nether King Hell? The blood-eyed leopard sneered. Damn you, is there any point in playing with me? The madman was instantly enraged as a wave of blood energy rolled out. In the blink of an eye, a blood-colored domain appeared and covered the entire area. Blood Demon Domain. The Blood Demon Domain could cause the opponent's cultivation to drop by 4 minor realms. However, the blood-eyed leopard's cultivation showed no signs of dropping at all. What are you doing? The blood-eyed leopard glanced at the Blood Demon Domain and looked suspiciously at the madman. The madman couldn't help but smile bitterly. As expected. No matter how powerful a deity technique was, as long as it wasn't at the heaven-defying level, it couldn't break through the barrier of major realms. Right now, he was a great success Paragon God and was just a little bit away from perfection Paragon God. But even so, the Blood Demon Domain was useless against a half-step Nine Heavens realm blood-eyed leopard. How frustrating. If he could use a heaven-defying technique, a mere half-step imperishable realm beast could be killed with a wave of his hand. Seems like that's all you've got. Boring, this emperor will reward you, become this emperor's food. The blood-eyed leopard snarled and pounced at the madman. This is the Nether King Hell. The madman couldn't help but feel despair. Beast, die. But at this moment, an old voice sounded. A black-robed old man came from the left like lightning. It's him. The madman turned around and was shocked. The black-robed old man came aggressively and slapped at the blood-eyed leopard. Roar. The blood-eyed leopard howled as blood splashed across the sky. Strong. The madman muttered. This black-robed old man was at the Great Perfection Ninth Heaven realm. The black-robed old man stopped and looked at the madman. You're the madman? Yes. Madman nodded and bowed, greetings, Lord Ancestral Dragon. That was right. This black-robed old man was the ancestral dragon of the Black Dragon clan. Madman never expected that the first person he would meet in the Underworld King's Hell would be Black Dragon Ancestral Gragon. Why are you running around? If I hadn't coincidentally met you, you would already be a corpse. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said furiously. What do you mean? Madman was stunned. Why was this old fellow concerned about him? All right. From now on, you will follow me. With your level of cultivation, if no one protects you, you'll definitely die. After Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon finished speaking, he turned around and flew towards the west. Madman glanced at Black Dragon Ancestral Gragon's back and quickly chased after him. He asked suspiciously, how do you know me? It was Yi Zhong who said that. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. Grand Hall Master. Madman was stunned. That's right. Before entering Hades' Hell, he told us dragons to bring you and Li Bu with us if we meet you. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said indifferently. I see. Madman nodded in realization. Look at you guys, you didn't even inquire about the situation in Hades' Hell before coming in. Aren't you courting death? If it wasn't for Yi Zhong's face, I wouldn't bother with idiots like you. What about Li Bu? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon asked. I don't know. I'm also puzzled. Madman shook his head. What's there to be puzzled about? The teleportation in Hades' Hell is random. Even if you are tied together, you will be separated once you reach Hades' Hell. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. I see. Madman muttered and asked, then where are we going now? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said, to the gathering place. Gathering place? Madman was stunned. That's right. We dragons have been to Hades' Hell many times. And after exploring it time and time again, although we don't know this place like the back of our hand, we still know the basic situation. Therefore, every time before entering Hades' hell, we would first set a gathering place. Everyone, after entering the hell of the King of Hell, we will gather here. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. I see. Madman nodded in realization. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon glanced at him and said, quickly refine the evil force in your body, otherwise it will corrode your soul sooner or later. Evil force? Madman was stunned. It's the blood mist in your body. This blood mist, whether it's us or the natives of Hades' hell, we all call it evil force. And this is one of the biggest threats of Hades' hell. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. The biggest threat? Madman was stunned and frowned. It can't be, why do I feel like it doesn't affect me? What? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon immediately stopped in the void and turned around to look at Madman in shock. He wasn't affected. How was that possible? One had to know that this evil force could even corrode an expert like him if he wasn't careful. I feel, what is this evil force? Not only did it not affect me at all, it even gave me an inexplicable sense of intimacy. In fact, I can even absorb the evil energy to strengthen my own cultivation. Madman said. What? Sense of intimacy? I can even absorb it. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon was shocked. Every time Hades' hell opened, he would come in, but he had never heard of such a thing. What kind of monster was this kid? Yizhong didn't misjudge him. He was a monster. Madman also frowned. Could it be, it has something to do with the heaven-defying technique I cultivate? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon's eyes flashed as a smile climbed up his face and asked, Little Madman, are you interested in becoming this Lord's disciple? Ah. Madman was stunned. The dignified Ancestral Dragon actually wanted to accept a human as his disciple. If this was heard by others, their jaws would definitely drop. If you become this Lord's disciple, then your status in Divine Land will not be lower than Libu, Air. And you can freely enter and exit Divine Dragon Island. You may not know, but my Divine Dragon Island has a very powerful time array. The most important thing is that you can enjoy resources that others can only dream of. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said with a smile, full of temptation. But Madman despised him in his heart. How could he not know about Divine Dragon Island's time array? It couldn't be compared to the ancient castle at all. It couldn't even be compared to the time array of the Dragon Slayer Palace. What was there to be proud of? However, this was a chance to get close to the dragons. Let me think about it. Madman hesitated. For this lord to take a fancy to you, that is the accumulated merit of your ancestors. What do you have to think about? Be straightforward, do you agree or not? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon was unhappy. Madman looked hesitant. If you don't agree, this lord will abandon you now. This lord wants to see how you can survive here. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon sneered. Alright, this lord, no, I agree. Madman nodded helplessly. That's more like it. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon chuckled and said, This lord has also heard from Yizhong that with your character, there is no need to suppress it. Is that so? Then this lord will not be polite. Since I have already acknowledged you as my master, is there any greeting gift? Madman grinned. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon's face suddenly darkened. He was really not polite at all. And then there was the white-eyed wolf. At this moment, the female blood-eyed giant was lying motionless on the ground after being beaten to a pulp. How is it? Do you still dare to be arrogant in front of me? The white-eyed wolf jumped onto the giant's neck and laughed proudly. The giant glared at the white-eyed wolf, but it could not hide the fear in its heart. Don't stare at me like that. I am actually very kind. Come, let's have a good chat. What is the situation in this Nether King Hell? Where are the heaven-defying artifacts and heaven-defying techniques usually hidden? The white-eyed wolf simply sat on the giant's nose and asked curiously. Heaven-defying artifact? Heaven-defying technique? The blood-eyed giant was stunned. The white-eyed wolf held his chin and said indifferently, "Don't say that you don't know. How would I know about such a divine artifact and technique?" The red-eyed giant felt wronged. Really? The white-eyed wolf frowned. The red-eyed giant nodded. Then aren't you worthless? The white-eyed wolf said thoughtfully. The red-eyed giant's eyes trembled, and it hurriedly said, "But I can tell you something else." The white-eyed wolf thought for a moment and laughed. "I didn't expect you to be afraid of death." "Then tell me." Situations like Qin Feiyang, the mad scientist, and the white-eyed wolf were happening everywhere in the Nether King Hell. Help! In the sky above a certain mountain, a perfect paragon god in black was crushed by a flaming lion's claw. Whoosh! There was a blood-red river and a middle-aged perfect divine lord carefully flew towards it. Roar! Suddenly, a huge beast roared out of the river and swallowed the middle-aged man in one gulp. On the shore of a lake, a young man and a young woman were carefully sizing up the lake. They did not know each other. They just happened to descend nearby, so they traveled together and could take care of each other. Their cultivation was not weak. The man was a perfect paragon god, and the woman was a greater paragon god. But suddenly, a blood-eyed giant charged out of the lake. This blood-eyed giant's cultivation was at the greater ninth heaven realm. Outsiders, die! Looking at the two of them, the blood-eyed giant was stunned for a moment. Then, it went berserk and stomped at the two of them. Go to the spatial divine item. The woman shouted. The man grabbed the woman, but found that he could not enter the spatial divine item. How could this be? At this moment, the blood-eyed giant's foot landed, and the two were stomped into meat paste. In the sky above a lake, a human at the lesser ninth heaven realm was fighting with a blood-eyed giant who was also at the lesser ninth heaven realm. This person had mastered a pinnacle-level deity skill and a pinnacle-level deity weapon. He was very confident. However, the blood-eyed giant suddenly took out a giant axe that was dozens of meters long and chopped him into pieces with a single swing of the axe. Both his body and soul were destroyed. Chapter 2577. In short, too many people had died. Many people didn't even have the chance to see the Nether King's hell before they died at the hands of the blood-eyed giants and the beasts. Those who had the power to protect themselves were at least in the nine heavens realm. Those paragon gods, monarchs, and war gods could only wait for death. But if they encountered the blood-eyed giants and beasts in the nine heavens realm, then even the humans in the nine heavens realm would be doomed. Moreover, not being able to enter the space divine item was also a fatal blow. Many people didn't know this before they came in. Therefore, life-saving things like elixirs were all placed in the space divine item. There were even some people who placed their divine artifacts in spatial divine items. And before entering the Nether King's hell, they had a plan. For example, the man and woman, so what if they were in danger? As long as they entered the space divine item, it would be no problem to hide. But the reality was cruel. When they really entered the Nether King's hell and encountered danger, they found that they couldn't enter the space divine item. This sudden turn of events was undoubtedly a double blow to their hearts and minds. Those with strong willpower were fine, they would try their best to find a way. As for those with weak willpower, they immediately fell into despair. One had to know. In such a place, once you fell into despair, you would be waiting for death. In less than a day, 1/3 of the people who entered the Nether King's hell had died. Damn it! Why didn't the dragons tell us in advance that we can't enter the space divine item in the Nether King's hell? Isn't this sending us to our deaths? I want to go back. God, can you send me out of the Nether King's hell? I don't want to die. Killing was everywhere. Despair and helplessness shrouded the entire Nether King's hell. But it was too late to regret now. This was a lesson learned in blood. Do not do things that are beyond your ability. On the same day, Somewhere in the Nether King's hell, there was a huge ancient city. No city in the divine prefecture could compare to the scale of that ancient city. The city covered an area of millions of miles. Every building inside was as tall as a mountain, reaching into the clouds. Even the most ordinary house was a few hundred meters high. Within the city, there were countless red-eyed giants living there. There were men and women, old and young among these red-eyed giants. Just like outside, it was bustling with activity. And in the center of the city stood a particularly tall palace. The palace was pitch black and emitted an ancient aura. Inside the palace, a red-eyed giant that was 100 meters tall was sitting on a throne. His entire body was emitting a terrifying aura. Below them stood a group of giants. These red-eyed giants were all dozens of meters tall, like small mountains. You've all received the news, right? The 100-meter-tall giant glanced at the giant below and asked. His voice was like thunder, deafening to the ears. The giants below nodded in agreement. It said that other than the divine dragon, there are also many dwarves. Moreover, there are both good and bad midgets. There are even trash like the war god. This is simply a provocation to our blood demon race. Pass down the order immediately. Hunt them down, including those detestable divine dragons. The 100-meter-tall giant shouted. Yes. The group of giants responded respectfully, then turned and rushed out of the hall. Dragons, damn things. This time, I'll definitely catch all of you in one fell swoop. Let's see if you dare to come to the Netherworld King's hell to snatch our divine items in the future. The 100-meter-tall blood-eyed giant snorted coldly, emitting a bone-piercing murderous aura. Even the dragons knew about it. It was obvious that these giants had fought with the dragons more than once. A hunt was about to begin. However, it was different from the outside world. In the outside world, it was usually humans who hunted other creatures. However, in this world, humans became the prey. This included the dragons. Half a year later. Halfway up a giant mountain, a young man in black walked out of a cave abode. He was in high spirits. This person was Qin Feiyang. For the past half a year, he had been refining the blood mist in his body. Just now, he had finally refined the last strand of blood mist. It took him half a year to finish refining it. One could imagine how difficult it was to refine the blood mist. Where should I go next? Qin Feiyang stood at the entrance of the cave abode and scanned the mountains and rivers outside. He had never felt so lost before. He didn't know what to do at all. And after half a year, he didn't know how the lunatic and the white-eyed wolf were doing. Boom! Crack! Suddenly, waves of battle waves came from afar. There's a battle. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He quickly rose into the air and scanned the surroundings. Since there was a battle, there must be someone. But the movement was very small. After Qin Feiyang confirmed it again and again, he finally determined that the movement came from the northeast. Roar! Just as Qin Feiyang was about to fly toward the northeast, a roar suddenly sounded from the mountains below. Qin Feiyang was shocked and hurriedly looked down. He saw a ferocious beast rushing up with its bloody mouth. It was actually a black rat. No. It shouldn't be called a rat. It should be called a rat. Because the rat's body was too big, more than 10 meters long. The pitch-black hair all over its body was like steel needles, emitting a shocking cold light. Moreover, its eyes were also blood-red and full of murderous intent. However, fortunately, the cultivation of this giant rat was only at the consummate level of the immortal god. Even a consummate immortal god dares to pounce on me? You really think I'm a sick cat? Qin Feiyang was very angry. He took a step forward and punched the giant rat. The giant rat immediately let out a painful howl and crashed into the mountains below like a rubber ball. However, Qin Feiyang's face showed a trace of surprise and looked down at his fist. There were a few wounds on his fist, and blood was flowing out. Obviously, he was injured by the giant rat's hair when he punched at it. This made Qin Feiyang feel very incredulous. The hair on the giant rat was so hard that it could hurt his body. One had to know. He was now a consummate immortal god. With the strength of his body, it was enough to crush a consummate immortal god. And this giant rat was only a consummate immortal god. It seems that the ferocious beasts of hell can't be looked at with ordinary eyes. Qin Feiyang muttered and ignored the giant rat. He turned around and charged toward the northeast. Dwarf, you hurt me, and you still want to leave. But at this moment, the giant rat angrily rushed into the sky and roared at Qin Feiyang. Dwarf? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He turned to look at the giant rat and frowned. Are you talking about me? Who else is here other than you, dwarf? The giant rat laughed sinisterly. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. The ferocious beasts of hell were really interesting. The Blood Demon clan has ordered a full-scale hunt for you dwarfs. And you are very unlucky to have met us. The giant rat laughed sinisterly. Blood Demon clan? Qin Feiyang stared blankly. What is this? Wait. Us? Qin Feiyang hurriedly looked at the mountains below. Could there be other giant rats hiding below? Ha, brothers, come and enjoy the delicious meal. The giant rat suddenly laughed. Boom. At that moment, the ground in all directions began to tremble violently and crack open crazily. Qin Feiyang hurriedly looked over, and his face couldn't help but turn pale. Below them, giant black rats were surging out from the broken ground. Group after group. In the blink of an eye, Qin Feiyang saw hundreds of giant black rats. And their cultivation was all consummate immortal god. There were even many consummate immortal gods. So many. Qin Feiyang was speechless. It seemed that he had encountered a rat nest. Underground, a large number of giant rats surged out. In the end, there were as many as 500 to 600 giant rats surrounding him, densely packed. Qin Feiyang glanced at all the giant rats and asked suspiciously, "Can you answer my question first? What exactly is the Blood Demon clan?" Hee hee. The Blood Demon clan is the ruler of hell. Kill. The greater rat that appeared first laughed and roared fiercely. A group of giant rats immediately pounced on Qin Feiyang, their bloody eyes emitting a bloodthirsty light. In their eyes, Qin Feiyang was a delicacy. Blood Demon clan, ruler, Qin Feiyang frowned. They actually ordered to hunt them down. It seemed that many people in hell must have died in the past 6 months. This made him more and more worried about the madman and the white-eyed wolf. Hee hee, aren't you going to resist? But it's useless to resist. The giant rats around were like a tide, incomparably ferocious, and were about to drown Qin Feiyang. Suddenly, a strange invisible force, with Qin Feiyang as the center, rolled out in all directions. Soul destruction technique. It ignored all defenses and directly wiped out the soul. At that moment, the greater rats in all directions fell stiffly to the ground. In just an instant, all the giant rats were wiped out. Qin Feiyang confirmed that the souls of these giant rats had indeed been wiped out, and then he dispersed the soul destruction technique. Immediately, he looked up at the blood-colored sun in the sky. Was hell the third level of the miracle? Where was the fire dragon now? Boom! The battle fluctuations coming from the distance were getting more and more obvious. Obviously, the battle over there was moving towards here. Qin Feiyang collected his thoughts, turned into a stream of light, and rushed over like lightning. Look, it's a human dwarf. Kill him. But on the way, he kept being attacked by beasts. These beasts, without exception, were extremely large in size, their eyes were blood red, and their killing intent was monstrous. Qin Feiyang killed some, but he didn't continue to fight. Because he found that the number of beasts in hell was beyond his imagination, and he couldn't kill them all. But he was lucky that he didn't encounter any beasts in the 9th heaven realm. Finally, he saw the battlefield in front of him. It was a blood-eyed giant. And when he saw the blood-eyed giant's face, his face suddenly froze. It was really a narrow road for enemies. That's right. That was the blood-eyed giant that chased after him half a year ago. Its cultivation was at the half-step ninth heaven realm. Qin Feiyang restrained his aura to the extreme, landed on a mountain peak, stood behind a huge rock, and looked at the opponent of the blood-eyed giant. Immediately, Qin Feiyang's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. This was really a coincidence. The person fighting with the blood-eyed giant was actually Wu Baichuan. But that wasn't right. He remembered that Wu Baichuan's cultivation seemed to be at the peak ninth heaven realm. Why couldn't he take down a blood-eyed giant that was at the half-step ninth heaven realm? Chapter 2578. Not only did he meet the blood-eyed giant, but he also met Wu Baichuan. Qin Feiyang didn't show himself, because he wasn't a match for either the blood-eyed giant or Wu Baichuan. The laws of the Nether King's Hell made him very passive. But the opportunity was in his hands. Even though Wu Baichuan's cultivation was much higher than his, it wasn't hard to kill him as long as he grasped the right timing. Boom! Crack! The battle between the two was terrifying. Mountains shattered and the ground caved in. None of the nearby beasts dared to get close. Wu Baichuan's cultivation was suppressed to the half-step nine heavens realm. He could have ended the battle quickly, but he suppressed his strength. What was he trying to do? Qin Feiyang was confused. Wu Baichuan also seemed to be in a bad state. He even seemed to be at a disadvantage. Could it be that he's plotting something? Otherwise, why would he suppress his cultivation? He even pretended to be weak. Qin Feiyang didn't dare to act rashly. Just as the mad scientist and the white-eyed wolf had said, although Wu Baichuan was weak in front of him, they were in the Nether King's Hell now. Therefore, he couldn't underestimate this person. Roar! The blood-eyed giant kept roaring as blood-red divine power surged around his body. The power of one punch was enough to destroy the earth. Wait! A trace of bewilderment crept onto Qin Feiyang's face. The space around them didn't shatter in such an intense battle. That didn't make sense. One had to know that a battle between experts of this level could easily destroy the earth. Could it be that the space in the Nether King's Hell was stronger than the space in the ancient world? Human dwarf, go to hell. At this moment, the crimson-eyed giant threw its head back and roared as it swung its millstone-sized fist towards Wu Baichuan with a destructive aura. Wu Baichuan didn't dodge. He raised his fist and smashed it back. Boom! Two fists, one big and one small, collided with a loud bang. A wave of destructive energy surged out in all directions like a tidal wave. Qin Feiyang saw that the situation was not good. He decisively activated the concealment technique and left the mountain peak. Right after he retreated, the enormous mountain he was on shattered on the spot. Puff! Meanwhile, Wu Baichuan spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying like a bomb. Why are you still hiding your cultivation? Qin Feiyang stood in the void and looked at Wu Baichuan who was flying away, his brows tightly knitted together. Bang! In the end, Wu Baichuan smashed into a mountain in the distance, and several huge peaks were flattened one after another. The blood-eyed giant stood proudly in the air, its violent aura sweeping across the sky. It glanced at the mountains from afar, then turned and left. In his opinion, Wu Baichuan was already dead. But suddenly, a burst of laughter rang out. The blood-eyed giant was taken aback. It stopped and turned to look at the mountain again. Swoosh! A bloody figure rushed into the sky. Who else could it be but Wu Baichuan? He's not dead. The blood-eyed giant was instantly filled with rage. Its huge body turned into a stream of light and charged towards Wu Baichuan. You want to kill me? Wu Baichuan smiled in disdain. Wisps of lightning energy emerged from his body. Qin Feiyang was shocked. The lightning energy was black in color and it was like black snakes slithering in the void. Each wisp contained an aura that could destroy the world. The blood-eyed giant also stopped in the void and stared at the black lightning. There seemed to be a trace of seriousness in his eyes. This was because the lightning energy brought about a great sense of danger to him. With your cultivation level, you're just an ant in my eyes. Do you know why I haven't been serious with you yet? Because I want to see what the blood demon race is capable of. But in the end, you're just a bit stronger and have a stronger body. There's nothing special about you. Wu Baichuan walked towards the blood-eyed giant step by step. He was surrounded by lightning and looked disdainful. He's from the blood demon race. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback as he looked at the blood-eyed giant. He finally understood that Wu Baichuan was testing the blood-eyed giant's strength. After all, the blood demon race was an unknown being. And the blood demon race was the ruler of hell. They would definitely have to fight more blood-eyed giants in the future. There was a saying that was very good. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll win every battle. This was why Wu Baichuan suppressed his cultivation level to the half-step 9th heaven realm and fought with the blood-eyed giant. Because they were at the same level, they could clearly test each other's strength. One had to admit that Wu Baichuan was indeed a very smart person. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile wryly as he thought about his suspicions. He thought that Wu Baichuan was planning something. He had to change his suspicions. Sometimes, he could even scare himself to death. The blood-eyed giant suddenly turned around and flew away. Although it was huge, it was extremely fast. Wu Baichuan was taken aback. Qin Feiyang was also taken aback. This big guy knew how to run. Now you want to run? Wu Baichuan smiled coldly. As he waved his arm, the power of lightning immediately turned into a black wave and rushed towards the blood-eyed giant. Roar! The blood-eyed giant immediately howled as it was drowned by the power of lightning. Every bolt of lightning was like a sharp blade that pierced the bones. Wounds kept appearing on its huge body. Some were so deep that the bones could be seen. For a moment, flesh and blood splattered everywhere in the void. Blood dyed the surroundings red. Black lightning, Qin Feiyang muttered. This lightning was formed by Wu Baichuan's divine power. In other words, Wu Baichuan's divine power was the power of lightning. This was quite rare. Furthermore, he discovered that the power of the black lightning seemed to be even more powerful than the other types of lightning. It seemed that this person could not be underestimated. Roar! The blood-eyed giant roared in pain. Its flesh and blood had almost been crushed by the power of lightning. Even its bones were exposed. Qin Feiyang looked at the bones of the blood-eyed giant and found that the bones all over its body were blood-red. The blood demon race, what kind of race was this? In our human world, there is a way to die called dismemberment. Now, I'll let you have a taste of it. Wu Baichuan laughed with a ferocious look on his face. It seemed that torturing others was a pleasure. Qin Feiyang could not help but frown. This was just an ordinary battle. There was no deep hatred between them. Was there a need to torture the other party like this? A dozen breaths later, the blood-eyed giant was almost only a skeleton left. The smile on Wu Baichuan's face became brighter and brighter. Is this all you humans can do? But just when Qin Feiyang and Wu Baichuan thought that the blood-eyed giant was definitely going to die, the blood-eyed giant suddenly stopped screaming and looked at Wu Baichuan. What? This sudden unforeseen event caused the expressions of the two people to involuntarily turn stiff. It still had the strength to speak. No. It was not that it had the strength to speak, but it was not weak at all. That's right. They did not feel the slightest sense of weakness in the blood-eyed giant's voice. Just like the dragons said, you humans are indeed a kind of stupid, ignorant, insignificant, and lowly creatures. Do you really understand the power of the blood demon race? The blood-eyed giant suddenly roared. A terrifying aura suddenly fell from the sky. Qin Feiyang and Wu Baichuan looked at the sky at the same time. They found that the aura came from the blood-red sun in the sky. A bright blood-red light fell from the sun and landed on the blood-eyed giant like lightning. Immediately, the blood-eyed giant, which was almost only a skeleton, quickly grew new flesh. In less than 3 breaths, the blood-eyed giant's injuries were healed. How is this possible? Both Qin Feiyang and Wu Baichuan were dumbfounded. This was too strange. Such serious injuries were healed in less than 3 breaths. As long as the evil sun exists, the blood demon race will not die. The blood-eyed giant took a step forward and stomped on Wu Baichuan's head like a demonic god. Boom! Wu Baichuan was immediately stomped into the ground. The evil sun. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He looked at the blood-red sun suspiciously. Immortal? Are you kidding me? Even an eternal stage powerhouse would not dare to say that he is immortal. Who do you think you are? Wu Baichuan's angry roar came from the ground. Rumble. The ground immediately shook. The blood-eyed giant's huge body also started to shake. The blood-eyed giant was shocked. He continued to stomp on Wu Baichuan. I don't care if you are from the blood demon race. If you anger me, you will die. Wu Baichuan let out a sudden roar, as the cultivation that he had been suppressing finally exploded. Initial stage, phenomenal stage, and complete stage of the 9 heavens. What? The blood-eyed giant was shocked. He was still hiding his power. Boom! When Wu Baichuan's power reached its peak, the blood-eyed giant was immediately sent flying. The foot that was stepping on Wu Baichuan was also smashed to pieces by Wu Baichuan's punch. Wu Baichuan walked out of the ground step by step. His face was extremely dark. He stared at the blood-eyed giant and smiled. Immortal? He rushed in front of the blood-eyed giant and punched the blood-eyed giant's head with black lightning. With a loud crack, the blood-eyed giant's head was immediately smashed. Blood splattered everywhere. Roar! The blood-eyed giant was sent flying again and crashed into a mountain. He held his broken head and howled in pain. Since you can't die, then I will let you have a taste of what it feels like to live a life worse than death. Wu Baichuan laughed sinisterly. He took another step and arrived above the blood-eyed giant. He immediately activated the black lightning and bombarded the blood-eyed giant. The blood-eyed giant howled in pain. He didn't expect Wu Baichuan to still be hiding his power. Does it feel good? Wu Baichuan laughed. Roar! The blood-eyed giant roared again. The evil sun in the sky sent down another beam of blood-red light. Wu Baichuan smiled coldly. The black lightning turned into a waterfall and shot toward the beam of blood-red light. However, the beam of blood-red light penetrated the black lightning and entered the blood-eyed giant's body. What? Wu Baichuan was stunned. Qin Feiyang was also stunned. The black lightning was formed by divine power. How could it not hit the beam of blood-red light from the evil sun? Chapter 2579. With the help of the bloody light, the wounds on the blood-eyed giant's body quickly healed. What the hell is this thing? Wu Baichuan was exasperated. He didn't give the blood-eyed giant any chance to breathe and attacked it with black lightning. Soon, the blood-eyed giant was heavily injured again. The blood-eyed giant summoned the evil sun and another bloody light fell. Clang! Wu Baichuan waved his hand, and a 3-meter-long halberd slashed toward the blood-red light with a heaven-destroying might. In an instant, the halberd and the bloody light met. However, the same thing happened again. The bloody light ignored the halberd and went straight through. Even a divine weapon can't destroy it. Wu Baichuan's expression froze. He jumped up and punched at the bloody light angrily. But it was still the same. The bloody light went through his body and merged with the blood-eyed giant's body. Why is this happening? Wu Baichuan stood in the air in a daze, his eyes filled with disbelief. Divine power and divine weapons couldn't destroy the bloody light. Even his body couldn't block the bloody light. No. To be exact, the bloody light couldn't be touched. And it was something that nothing could touch. How could such a thing exist in the world? Ha, do you believe me now? You can't kill me. The blood-eyed giant got up from the ground and looked at Wu Baichuan in the sky and laughed. Can't kill you, Wu Baichuan murmured and looked down at the blood-eyed giant. His eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light. There's no living thing in this world that can't be killed. Boom! Wu Baichuan attacked with all his might. The space within a 10,000-mile radius twisted. If I can't kill you, it means that I'm not using enough strength. As Wu Baichuan's words left his mouth, the black lightning energy roared out of his body like a torrent. The blood-eyed giant's pupils constricted and it turned around to escape. Qin Feiyang glanced at Wu Baichuan and then at the blood-eyed giant. Escaping meant that the blood-eyed giant was also afraid. Since it was afraid, there was nothing that couldn't be killed. As Wu Baichuan said, he couldn't kill it because he wasn't using enough strength. Once he used all his strength and crushed the blood-eyed giant, no matter how powerful the evil sun was, it wouldn't be able to bring it back to life. Go to hell. Wu Baichuan laughed sinisterly. The black lightning energy immediately covered the sky as it charged towards the blood-eyed giant. The blood-eyed giant was even more panicked. He repeatedly emphasized that he wouldn't die because he wanted to scare Wu Baichuan away. Because when Wu Baichuan revealed his true cultivation, he knew that he was not Wu Baichuan's opponent. Moreover, it was impossible for him to escape from Wu Baichuan's hands. After all, the difference of their strength level. But he didn't think giant had. Die. That was simply impossible. The evil Sun Chen's giants. If the other party instantly destroyed his soul and body, then even the gods wouldn't be able to save him. The blood-eyed giant tried to escape. But he couldn't escape. He was drowned by the power of lightning and screamed in pain. How dare you hurt the blood demons? Human, you're asking for death. But at this moment, a thunderous roar came from the void in the distance. Wu Baichuan and Qin Feiyang were shocked and hurriedly raised their heads to look. They saw an even taller blood-eyed giant charging towards them like lightning. The blood-eyed giant was a middle-aged man. He was more than 20 meters tall and had a strong body. One could feel his intimidating aura from afar. Most importantly, the aura he emitted was extremely powerful. He was at the perfection 9 heavens realm. Damn it, why is there another one? Wu Baichuan cursed in exasperation. He grabbed the halberd, turned around, and flew away without looking back. A half-9th heaven state blood-eyed giant was already so difficult to deal with, let alone a peak of the 9th heaven state blood-eyed giant. He wasn't afraid of a real battle. He was confident that he could kill him. But who knew if there were other blood-eyed giants nearby? So he couldn't fight. The giant rushed over and slammed its palm towards the black lightning. Boom! The black lightning was destroyed. The blood-eyed giant that was drowned by the lightning also appeared. Only his divine soul was left. His divine soul was much smaller than the blood-eyed giant's body, but it was still comparable to an adult's. Damn you, human! I won't let you go. The blood-eyed giant's divine soul roared and summoned another beam of crimson light. Qin Feiyang stood in the distance and didn't leave. Luckily, he didn't leave. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the chance to see such a shocking scene. The crimson light fell and wrapped around the divine soul. In just 10 seconds, the blood-eyed giant's body was reconstructed. Isn't this too outrageous? Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded by what he saw. He was at the half-9th heaven state after all, but his body was reconstructed in less than 10 seconds. What exactly was this evil sun? Greetings, 10 commanders. The blood-eyed giant knelt in front of the blood-eyed giant after his body was reconstructed and greeted him respectfully. The 10 commanders nodded and looked in the direction that Wu Baichuan disappeared. He asked, how many humans did you find? 2. I met one half a year ago and another one today. But, The blood-eyed giant lowered his head as he spoke. His face was full of fear. The 10 commanders frowned. Did you let them all escape? The blood-eyed giant nodded. Trash. Keep looking. The 10 commanders yelled. Yes. The blood-eyed giant answered respectfully. He hurriedly got up and flew in the opposite direction of Wu Baichuan. Obviously, he didn't dare to provoke Wu Baichuan again. The 10 giant commanders, on the other hand, flew directly in the direction where Wu Baichuan had disappeared. 10 commanders. It seems that the blood demon race is just like humans. They have discipline. Qin Feiyang murmured. He glanced at the 10 commanders and was about to turn around and leave. These blood-eyed giants were not people that he could provoke. Unfortunately, he didn't find a chance to kill Wu Baichuan. But now, compared to killing Wu Baichuan, he was more anxious to understand the situation in the Nether King's hell. All of this was beyond common sense. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked down at the mountains and rivers below. There seemed to be a figure flashing through the forest. There was someone else. With a trace of doubt, he silently landed in the forest and scanned the surroundings. Soon, he saw a figure not far in front of him. Wu Baichuan. Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. That was Wu Baichuan's figure. Why did he come back? What did he want to do? Qin Feiyang quietly followed and found that Wu Baichuan was tailing the half-ninth heaven realm blood-eyed giant. You still want to kill him? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Wu Baichuan was very agile. He hid his aura and avoided one beast after another. Gradually, the evil sun set in the west. The Nether King's hell, which was already dark, became even darker. Wu Baichuan was also very patient. He didn't attack the blood-eyed giant for an entire day. Qin Feiyang's concealment technique had already disappeared. Like Wu Baichuan, he hid his aura to the extreme and avoided countless beasts. In the evening, the blood-eyed giant walked and stopped before finally stopping in front of a lake. The water in the lake seemed to be stained with blood and had a demonic atmosphere. The blood-eyed giant looked around and then sat cross-legged by the lake and closed his eyes to cultivate. Wu Baichuan stood behind a big tree and looked at the blood-eyed giant from afar. His eyes flickered. Qin Feiyang stood not far behind Wu Baichuan. He looked at Wu Baichuan's back and then looked at the blood-eyed giant's back. There was a hint of contemplation in his eyes. It wasn't a good idea to continue like this. It was better to find a chance to get close to Wu Baichuan. This way, there was no need to be sneaky. Moreover, with Wu Baichuan's cultivation, following him would save him a lot of trouble. In other words, Wu Baichuan was equivalent to a protective umbrella. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang took out an illusory form pill and changed his appearance into an extremely ordinary face. How ordinary was it? Even if he stood at the top of the tower, no one would look at him. Following that, he changed into a set of white clothes and then lay on the ground. Looking at Wu Baichuan's back, he whispered, "Is it Wu Baichuan or Wu Shixiang?" Wu Baichuan was shocked and quickly turned to look at the forest behind him. It's really you. Qin Feiyang quickly got up and ran towards Wu Baichuan in surprise. Sure. Wu Baichuan's face changed and hurriedly gestured to Qin Feiyang to keep quiet. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Looking at the blood-eyed giant sitting cross-legged by the lake, he immediately revealed a smile of understanding. Then, he quietly walked in front of Wu Baichuan. Wu Baichuan also glanced at the blood-eyed giant. Seeing that it wasn't alarmed, he couldn't help but feel relieved. Following that, Wu Baichuan then turned around and sized up Qin Feiyang. He frowned slightly and thought to himself, "Who are you? Do I know you? You definitely don't know me, but I know you. You are a famous monstrous genius in the Dragon God Palace." Qin Feiyang said with a face full of admiration, as if he had seen his idol. Wu Baichuan was startled, and sent a sound transmission, you are also from the Dragon God Palace. Yes, yes, yes. This is my identity badge. Qin Feiyang took out the order badge, waved it in front of Wu Baichuan, and then kept it. The identity badge of the Eastern, Western, Northern, and Southern Dragon God Palace were all the same. On the token, there was the symbol of the Dragon God Palace, as well as the name. Just now, Qin Feiyang had shown Wu Baichuan one side of the symbol. As for the name on the other side, he definitely could not let Wu Baichuan see it. Because Wu Baichuan knew that Li Bu was him. And now, facing the blood-eyed giant, he believed that Wu Baichuan would not care about the name on the other side of the order badge. As long as he could prove that he was from the Dragon God Palace, it would be fine. As expected, Wu Baichuan did not look at the name on the other side, and sized up Qin Feiyang for a while, then sent a sound transmission. When did you discover me? Just now. I unintentionally passed by here and saw a back figure. Thus, I carefully observed and realized that it was actually you, senior brother. The heavens will always leave a way out. Senior brother, for the sake of being from the same sect, you must help me. This place is too dangerous. I almost died under the claws of those damned beasts several times. Qin Feiyang scanned his surroundings with a fearful expression. Then, he looked at Wu Baichuan with a pleading gaze. Chapter 2580. Wu Baichuan's eyes were full of disdain when he heard this. Don't come if you're not strong enough. You're right, senior brother. But it's useless to regret now. Qin Feiyang's face was bitter. The disdain on Wu Baichuan's face was even stronger. He thought to himself, how do you want me to help you? Qin Feiyang hurriedly said, let me stay by your side, senior brother. Why? Wu Baichuan couldn't help but want to laugh, but he didn't dare to because of the blood-eyed giant. I know that with your strength, I can't help you at all, and I'll definitely drag you down. But I'll be very obedient. As long as senior brother allows me to stay, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Qin Feiyang said. At least you know your own strength. Wu Baichuan smiled proudly and thought to himself, I'll do anything, right? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Okay. Wu Baichuan nodded, looked at the shoes, and said jokingly, my shoes are a little dirty. Wipe them clean for me. Qin Feiyang's face suddenly froze. Why? You don't even know how to wipe shoes. Wu Baichuan looked at Qin Feiyang playfully. Yes, but, Qin Feiyang looked hesitant. However, a murderous intent surged in his heart. He even wanted to humiliate him. But what? Didn't you say that you'll do whatever I ask you to do? But now you can't even wipe shoes. How do you want me to trust you? Since I can't trust you, do you think I dare to keep you by my side? Wu Baichuan smiled mockingly. Qin Feiyang's murderous intent became stronger, but suddenly a light flashed in his eyes and he said with a smile, Senior brother, how can such a small thing test a person? Then tell me, what is the best way to test him? Wu Baichuan transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyang said, Senior martial brother, you have to think about it yourself. Wu Baichuan's eyes flashed. He turned to the blood-eyed giant and said, go and kick him. What? Qin Feiyang's face turned pale in an instant. Wu Baichuan said, if you dare to kick him, I'll let you stay by my side. Qin Feiyang said, but before Qin Feiyang could say anything, Wu Baichuan shook his head and said to himself, there's no room for negotiation. Qin Feiyang struggled for a moment, then nodded and said, okay, I'll go. Ugh! Wu Baichuan was stunned. Was he really going? But he didn't stop him. He crossed his arms and looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists and floated in the air. He restrained his aura to the extreme and carefully flew toward the blood-eyed giant. But in his heart, he wasn't very nervous. This blood-eyed giant was very powerful, but it wasn't that easy to kill him. But he was thinking. Why did Wu Baichuan ask him to kick this blood-eyed giant? You've got guts. But the people of the Dragon God Palace have nothing to do with me. I'm the young lord of the Dragon Slayer Palace. Wu Baichuan sneered in his heart. As the young lord of the Dragon Slayer Palace, the people of the Dragon God Palace were naturally his enemies. With his personality, why would he care about the lives of his enemies? Finally, Qin Feiyang silently approached the Blood-Eye Giant. And the Blood-Eye Giant didn't notice at all. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Wu Baichuan. Kick! Wu Baichuan said silently. Qin Feiyang gritted his teeth and kicked the Blood-Eye Giant's butt. The Blood-Eye Giant, who was completely unprepared, immediately fell into the lake, splashing up huge waves. The lake water splashed onto Qin Feiyang's body. Qin Feiyang was shocked to discover that the lake water also carried the strange energy that could pass through one's blood and corrode one's divine power and soul. Roar! And without a doubt, the Blood-Eye Giant was enraged by the sudden sneak attack. It jumped out of the lake and stared at Qin Feiyang with its two red eyes. Sorry, it's a misunderstanding. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand and kept stepping back. You human dwarf, you're courting death. The Blood-Eyed Giant roared angrily and raised its giant hand to slap Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang turned around and ran. Boom! The Blood-Eye Giant's giant hand fell to the ground. A handprint that was a few meters deep immediately appeared. Qin Feiyang looked back at the handprint on the ground and couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. If it hit him, wouldn't he become a pile of meat on the spot? Bang! The Blood-Eye Giant became even angrier when it saw that it didn't hit Qin Feiyang. It raised its giant foot and kept stomping on Qin Feiyang. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang panicked and ran. Although he could predict and dodge every time, the terrifying waves of air knocked him back again and again. Soon, he was covered in wounds. However, Wu Baichuan didn't have any intention of attacking. Other than glancing at Qin Feiyang occasionally, he was mostly looking at the surrounding forest and the blood-red sun in the sky. Die! The Blood-Eye Giant seemed to have lost its patience and its energy exploded. Poof! Under the impact of the energy, Qin Feiyang immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and fell into the lake like a broken kite. Roar! The Blood-Eye Giant roared and opened its mouth. A large amount of lake water swept up Qin Feiyang and rushed into the Blood-Eye Giant's mouth. Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. The Blood-Eye Giant wanted to swallow him alive. What a ferocious guy! It seemed that it was no longer hiding. Qin Feiyang was about to activate the concealment technique. The concealment technique could be activated twice a day, so it meant that he had 2 chances to save his life. Clang! But at this moment, Wu Baichuan finally attacked. With the sky halberd in his hand, he flashed behind the Blood-Eye Giant and pierced the Blood-Eye Giant's sea of qi with the sky halberd. Ouch! The Blood-Eye Giant immediately howled in pain. Wu Baichuan didn't stop. He pulled out the sky halberd and placed it on the Blood-Eye Giant's head. He shouted, "Shut up, or I'll destroy you." It's you. Although the Blood-Eye Giant's back was facing Wu Baichuan, it could hear Wu Baichuan's voice and its eyes flashed fiercely. That's right. It's me. You didn't expect me to follow you, did you? Wu Baichuan sneered. The Blood-Eye Giant clenched its fists and looked at the darkening sky. Stop looking. The evil sun has gone down the mountain. Let's see how you can repair your sea of qi without the evil sun, Wu Baichuan said. Hearing this, the Blood-Eye Giant's eyes flashed with a hint of mockery. But neither Qin Feiyang nor Wu Baichuan saw this mockery. Qin Feiyang ran out of the lake and kicked the Blood-Eye Giant. Then, he ran in front of Wu Baichuan and asked suspiciously, "Wu Shixiang, is this giant very strong? Even you have to sneak attack him?" Strong? Do you know how to talk? I'm at the peak stage of the 9 heavens state. Do I need to sneak attack him? Wu Baichuan said angrily. Then why did you ask me to attract his attention and sneak attack him? Qin Feiyang frowned. What do you know? I asked you to kick him not to attract his attention, but to see if there are other giants nearby. With his half-step 9 heavens realm cultivation, I can kill him with a wave of my hand. Wu Baichuan snorted. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded. This person was quite cautious in doing things. Wait. Qin Feiyang frowned again. He looked at Wu Baichuan and said, then aren't you using me as bait? You have a problem with that? Wu Baichuan sneered. I wouldn't dare. Qin Feiyang quickly shook his head and asked with a smile, how did I do? Can you let me stay with you? You did well. Just stay for now. But you have to listen to me. Wu Baichuan said calmly. Okay. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. He then looked at the blood-eyed giant and asked, Senior brother, why didn't you just kill him? Shut up. Wu Baichuan frowned. Qin Feiyang shut his mouth. Wu Baichuan looked at the blood-eyed giant and said, now, you have to answer my questions honestly. Otherwise, I'll destroy your divine soul. The blood-eyed giant looked at the dark sky and the mockery in his eyes became thicker. However, his body trembled and he said, go ahead. What is the evil sun? It can even reconstruct your body so quickly. Wu Baichuan asked. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He knew that the blood-eyed giant had reconstructed his body. It seemed that when the blood-eyed giant was reconstructing its body, Wu Baichuan had already killed his way back. It was just that he was hiding in the dark, and no one had discovered him. The evil sun is formed by the power of evil. All the living beings in hell rely on it to survive. Even our cultivation is related to the evil sun, to the blood demon race, the evil sun is more important. It's a sacred item. Because we can summon the power of evil to heal our injuries. Chapter 2581. Qin Feiyang and the other man's brows furrowed tighter and tighter. They felt an uneasy premonition. The blood demon tribe is even scarier at night. The blood-eyed giant smiled. He looked up at the blood moon and roared. A violent aura surged out of the blood-eyed giant's body like a tidal wave. Then, a shocking scene appeared. The blood-eyed giant's body started to swell. Furthermore, red hair was growing all over his body. At a glance, he resembled a mutated red-furred gorilla. But this was not the main point. The main point was that the aura of the blood-eyed giant became stronger as his body changed. Initial 9th heaven stage. Initial 9th heaven stage, that's right. This was the change in his cultivation. How could this be? Wu Baichuan was shocked. I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Roar. The blood-eyed giant kept roaring at the blood moon in the sky. His body was expanding crazily. His body, which was originally a dozen meters tall, had expanded to 50 or 60 meters. His aura had also soared to the greater 9th heaven stage. Kill him. Qin Feiyang shouted. He wondered how powerful the crimson-eyed giant would become if he allowed it to continue developing like this. I know what to do. I don't need you to remind me. Wu Baichuan glared at Qin Feiyang. He waved the halberd in his hand and slashed at the blood-eyed giant's head. The sharpness destroyed everything in all directions. This halberd was a legendary divine weapon. It was extremely powerful. However, the blood-eyed giant suddenly turned around and grabbed the halberd with his bare hands. The blade was sharp. The blood-eyed giant's hand was torn apart. But the blood-eyed giant did not let go. His blood-red eyes emitted a murderous aura. Die! Wu Baichuan shouted. The sky halberd's sharpness suddenly increased. Crack! The blood-eyed giant's entire arm shattered. That enormous body was sent flying by the halberd's aura. With a bang, it fell into the lake. However, the blood-eyed giant's aura became more and more terrifying. Boom! All of a sudden, the blood-eyed giant's aura soared to the peak 9th heaven stage. Roar! With a deafening roar, the blood-eyed giant rushed out of the lake and appeared in front of Qin Feiyang and Qin Feiyang. Looking at the blood-eyed giant, the two were stunned. At this moment, the blood-eyed giant had changed. Both the blood-eyed giant's body and face were covered in red hair. His two blood-red eyeballs looked like they were made of blood. And its body was 100 meters tall blood-eyed giant. At first glance, he looked like a red-furred demon with overflowing evil energy. What's going on? Qin Feiyang and Qin Feiyang were in disbelief. Although the blood-eyed giant was the blood-eyed giant, but now, how could he still look like a human? It was a complete monster. Die, all of you. The blood-eyed giant's laughter was as deafening as thunder. It raised its other arm and smashed towards the two of them. Qin Feiyang saw that the situation was not good, and retreated like lightning. Humph. However, Wu Baichuan brandished his Fengtian halberd, not dodging at all. Clang. The fist and the sky halberd met. The blood-eyed giant's fist was smashed into pieces. However, the sky halberd in Wu Baichuan's hand was also shaken out of his hand by the blood-eyed giant's terrifying power. Even his arm, which was holding the sky halberd, was bleeding. He kept retreating. Qin Feiyang hurried forward to support Wu Baichuan and asked, "Senior brother, are you okay?" Wu Baichuan forced Qin Feiyang to retreat and stared at the blood-eyed giant. "Human, do you know how powerful the blood demon tribe is? Once the evil moon rises, all living things in the world will have to submit to the blood demon clan. The blood demon tribe is the king of the night." The blood-eyed giant roared. Suddenly, a ray of blood light fell from the blood moon in the sky and entered the blood-eyed giant's body. Immediately, the arm that was smashed by the sky halberd and the other arm that was injured just now were instantly repaired. He wasn't hallucinating. It happened in an instant. It was unbelievable. This recovery ability was even more terrifying than the evil sun during the day. Hee. The blood demon tribe is not something that you dwarfs can offend. The blood-eyed giant stomped towards the two of them. The violent aura was earth-shattering, destroying everything around it. Qin Feiyang retreated again. Clang. Wu Baichuan waved his hand and the sky halberd landed in front of Wu Baichuan like a ray of light. "You dare to call yourself an emperor in front of me? It seems that you've really become arrogant." As Wu Baichuan's voice fell, the sky halberd fully recovered. Boom! A giant golden python roared as it shot out. This was the phenomenon of the sky halberd fully recovering. The aura it emitted was many times stronger than before. "You're only at the peak 9 heavens state. Killing you is as easy as slaughtering a dog." Wu Baichuan grabbed the sky halberd and charged forward with a gloomy face. Roar! Clang! Rumble! The two of them immediately clashed, and a destructive aura spread in all directions. Qin Feiyang retreated again and again. He was extremely shocked. One had to know. Wu Baichuan was not only at the peak 9 heavens state, but the sky halberd was also a legendary divine artifact. With such strength, he was almost invincible in the same realm. However, at this moment, the blood-eyed giant was evenly matched with Wu Baichuan with the strength of a peak 9 heavens state. He even used his physical body to fight against a legendary divine artifact. The mutated blood-eyed giant was much stronger than before, be it in terms of cultivation, physical strength, or strength. It could be said that the blood-eyed giant's physical body was so strong that even Qin Feiyang felt inferior. The most important thing was, no matter how serious the injuries the blood-eyed giant suffered, it could instantly recover with the help of the evil moon. This was simply an immortal body. Evil moon. Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at the blood moon in the sky, his eyes full of suspicion. The evil sun was formed by the power of evil. Then what about this evil moon? Ah! Suddenly, a scream woke Qin Feiyang up. Qin Feiyang hurriedly looked over, and immediately turned pale with fright. Wu Baichuan was sent flying by the blood-eyed giant. His body cracked and blood flowed out. He was no match for it. This is impossible. Wu Baichuan himself was also extremely shocked. With the cultivation of a peak 9 heavens state and a legendary divine artifact, he couldn't beat a peak 9 heavens state. The blood-eyed giant's injuries were even more serious than Wu Baichuan's. But with the help of the evil moon, he instantly recovered. With a grin, the blood-eyed giant stretched out his arm. That huge palm seemed to be able to cover the sky and the moon as it grabbed Wu Baichuan in his hand. His 5 fingers rapidly tightened. Wu Baichuan's body suddenly spat out blood and his entire body twisted. He couldn't help but scream in pain. The bones in his body were broken one by one and shattered. Killing you is as easy as killing an ant. The blood-eyed giant laughed. There was a bloodthirsty light in his eyes. Senior brother, Qin Feiyang looked at Wu Baichuan anxiously. But in his heart, he was thinking, isn't this guy too useless? With such a powerful cultivation, he couldn't even deal with a peak 9 heavens state. It seemed that this protection was a bit unreliable. It was good that he died, so he wouldn't have to do it in the future. Seeing that Wu Baichuan's body was about to be crushed, a terrifying aura suddenly surged out. The blood-eyed giant's hand was instantly shattered. This aura, Qin Feiyang looked at the sky halberd in Wu Baichuan's hand. That's right. This aura that suddenly appeared came from the sky halberd. And this aura was about to surpass the level of a legendary divine artifact. Wu Baichuan took a divine life pill and looked up at the blood-eyed giant. His face was unprecedentedly calm. This should be all of your strength, right? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Could it be that this person had been testing the blood-eyed giant all this time? The blood-eyed giant also stared at Wu Baichuan in shock. The blood demon race is indeed a terrifying race. If it was another peak 9 heavens state, they would definitely die in your hands today. But unfortunately, you're unlucky to have met me. Remember my name. My name is Wu Baichuan. Wu Baichuan smiled coldly. The sky halberd in his hand immediately emitted a powerful aura with a loud clang. This is a supreme-level divine artifact. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. With a supreme-level divine artifact, he could naturally tell. That's right. This sky halberd was not a legendary divine artifact, but a supreme-level divine artifact. Clang! The sky halberd trembled in Wu Baichuan's hand. It seemed to be very excited. The blood-eyed giant's pupils constricted. It raised its huge fist and punched at Wu Baichuan. Kill him. Wu Baichuan said. The sky halberd broke through the air, and a destructive aura flooded in all directions. Roar! With a painful roar, the blood-eyed giant's arm was shattered. Its 100-meter-tall body was also sent flying. Blood spurted out. Clang! Then, the sky halberd was like a bolt of lightning. It pierced through the air and went between the blood-eyed giant's eyebrows. Roar! There was a cry of pain. The blood-eyed giant's head exploded. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. Its divine soul was not spared. It was destroyed on the spot. Powerful. Qin Feiyang muttered. This Wu Baichuan was indeed worthy of being the young lord of the Dragon God Palace. He even had a supreme-level divine artifact. He probably had more tricks up his sleeves. Maybe he even had a supreme-level divine art. If it was outside, he wouldn't take it to heart. But in the Nether King's hell, he had to be careful when dealing with this person. Bang! The blood-eyed giant's huge body finally fell to the ground. Blood flowed out. Senior brother, you're really powerful. Qin Feiyang ran over and looked at Wu Baichuan with admiration. Wu Baichuan sneered. Didn't you think that I was no match for him? That's because I didn't know what you were capable of. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. Now you know. Not to mention this bullshit blood demon clan, even if Qin Feiyang were to encounter me, there would only be death. Wu Baichuan smiled proudly. Yes, yes, yes. Senior brother, you're invincible. Qin Feiyang nodded. Today, even if we have to ascend to the heavens or descend to the earth, we will slaughter you all. The man roared. His speed also increased by a large margin in an instant. His speed has also increased by so much. Wu Baichuan was slightly taken aback. He hurriedly used an auxiliary technique and his speed increased several times. In the blink of an eye, he got rid of the two blood-eye giants. Bastards, I won't let you go. The two giants stopped in the void and roared. On a mountain top, Wu Baichuan bent over, panting like a cow. At the side, Qin Feiyang's face was also filled with fear. Senior brother, what should we do? Qin Feiyang looked at Wu Baichuan in a daze. Wu Baichuan let out a long breath, glanced around at the night sky, and said in a deep voice, let's find a place to refine the evil power in our bodies and come out after dawn. Qin Feiyang nodded. This was indeed a wise move. Because the blood demon race at night was countless times more terrifying than during the day. If they continued to wander outside, they might encounter some danger. As for during the day, although the blood demon race could also borrow the power of the evil sun, they were not that difficult to deal with. The two of them found a nearby place and opened up a cave. Wu Baichuan used his divine power to seal the cave dwelling. He then took out a wine jar and gulped down a large mouthful. He raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang and said, that's right, I still haven't asked what your name is. He-san. Qin Feiyang said. Do you want to drink? Wu Baichuan shook the wine jar. Qin Feiyang was stunned and said hesitantly, it's not appropriate to drink at this time. We're not drunk. What are you afraid of? Forget it if you don't want to drink. Wu Baichuan took another big gulp, put down the wine jar, sat cross-legged on the ground, and closed his eyes to meditate. Qin Feiyang glanced at Wu Baichuan and also sat cross-legged to check the situation in his body. He found that there was a lot of blood mist in his body after a day. It seemed that even if he didn't actively absorb it, the blood mist in the hell of the Nether King would automatically enter his body. And it would do it all the time. In other words, every once in a while, they had to hide and refine the blood mist in their body. If they didn't refine the blood mist, they would definitely be threatened. Wait. Qin Feiyang was suddenly stunned. He looked up at Wu Baichuan and asked carefully, Senior brother, can I ask you a question? Speak. Wu Baichuan didn't open his eyes. Qin Feiyang said, is the blood mist in our body the evil power? That's right. This is the evil power. Although the evil power in the hell of the Nether King can't be compared to the evil power in the bloody channel we passed through when we came in, it can still pose a great threat to us. Because this evil power is everywhere. My suggestion is that it's best to refine it once a day. Otherwise, when this evil power corrodes your divine soul, even if a god descends to the mortal world, he won't be able to reverse the situation. Wu Baichuan said. So this is the so-called evil power. Qin Feiyang nodded. Don't disturb me if there's nothing. Wu Baichuan said coldly and then fell silent. Qin Feiyang also tactfully shut his mouth and began to refine the evil power in his body. But in his heart, he was a little puzzled. This evil power could cause great harm to them, but to the blood demon race, it was equivalent to a sacred object. What kind of creature was this blood demon race to be able to absorb the evil power? At the same time, two figures cut through the night sky like lightning and rushed into a mountain. It was an old man and a young man. The old man was wearing a black robe and was filled with a murderous aura. The young man was wearing black and had an extraordinary temperament. That's right. These two people were the Black Dragon Ancestral Gragon and Frenzy. Old man, where is this? Madman looked at the mountain suspiciously. Old man, are you addicted to calling me old man? Don't you know how to respect your teacher? Ancestral Gragon glared at him. This is my nature. Besides, didn't you tell me not to suppress my personality? Madman was dissatisfied. Ancestral Gragon's face darkened and he couldn't be bothered to argue with him. This is the gathering place we agreed on in advance, the giant dragon mountain range. Madman was slightly taken aback and a trace of curiosity appeared in his eyes. Looking down from the sky, the mountain ridges did indeed look like giant dragons. About 10 breaths later, the two went deep into the heart of the giant dragon mountain range. There was a huge canyon ahead. Before they got close, Madman sensed a familiar aura. Whoosh! At the same time, an old figure rushed out of the canyon. It was an old man with white hair and a white beard, looking like an immortal. Yi Zhong. Ancestral Gragon waved his hand. That's right. The old man was Qin Feiyang's chief teacher, Yi Zhong. Yi Zhong went up and looked at Madman. A trace of anger flashed in his eyes, then he looked at Ancestral Gragon and smiled. You're finally here. Ancestral Gragon looked at the canyon and asked, is everyone here? Yi Zhong said, except for Her Highness and Old Hua, everyone else is here. And the Old Hua he mentioned was naturally the fire dragon, Ancestral Gragon. What? The princess is here too? Madman was surprised. You don't know? Yi Zhong looked at him suspiciously. Madman shook his head. Ancestral Gragon said, I didn't tell him. Yi Zhong nodded and asked, how did you meet? This kid is lucky. I bumped into him not long after he came in, otherwise he would have become a pile of corpses. Ancestral Gragon snorted. Madman smiled embarrassedly. Yi Zhong stared at Madman and asked, then did you see Li Bu hair? No. Ancestral Gragon shook his head. Yi Zhong's face darkened as he cursed, that little bastard is really worrisome. But between his brows, it was obvious that he was worried about Qin Feiyang. That, heaven helps the worthy. He should be fine. Madman said. Shut up. I'll let you off for now. When I find Li Bu, I'll deal with him together. Yi Zhong said angrily. Madman shrunk his neck and hid behind Ancestral Gragon. Cough cough. Old Yi, if you want to deal with him now, you have to get my permission first. Ancestral Gragon coughed and said. Yi Zhong was stunned and looked at Ancestral Gragon suspiciously. What do you mean? He is now my disciple. Ancestral Gragon said. What? Yi Zhong was stunned. The Ancestral Gragon actually took in a disciple, and a human at that? Old Black, do you have a fever? Yi Zhong stretched out his hand and touched Ancestral Gragon's forehead. Go away. Ancestral Gragon slapped away Yi Zhong's hand and glared at Yi Zhong. I'm just taking in a disciple, what's there to be surprised about? With that, he rushed down the canyon. Yi Zhong looked at Ancestral Gragon's back and turned to Madman. He frowned and said, Kid, did you feed Old Black some kind of bewitching potion? Bewitching potion? I need to be capable too. Madman was speechless. Don't think that you can escape punishment just because you're Old Black's disciple. When I find that bastard Li Bu, see how I'll deal with you. Yi Zhong snorted and returned to the canyon. Madman smiled bitterly and looked up at the night sky. He muttered, nothing must happen to you guys. To be honest. He was also worried about Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. Let's not talk about the white-eyed wolf first. Because he didn't know much about the white-eyed wolf. As for Qin Feiyang, he knew everything about him. Although Qin Feiyang had many tricks up his sleeve and was very shrewd, this was Nether King Hell. Because of the rules of Nether King Hell, Qin Feiyang's tricks were restricted. If he wasn't careful, something would happen. As a friend, he really didn't want anything to happen to Qin Feiyang. And if something happened to Qin Feiyang, then Fire Lotus and the others in the castle and Black Tortoise world would be trapped in Nether King Hell forever. In other words, Qin Feiyang's safety was related to the fate of everyone in Black Tortoise world. Not only are there blood demons, but there are also countless beasts. Yi Zhong said. Then, since we can't use heaven-defying divine artifacts and techniques in the underworld king's hell, these divine artifacts and techniques should be useless to the blood demon race. Then why don't we discuss with them and use some things that the underworld king's hell doesn't have to exchange for those divine artifacts and techniques? Madman said. If even you can think of it, how can we not? Yi Zhong smiled bitterly. Madman looked at him in confusion. We have already tried, but the blood demon race doesn't fall for it. Because in their eyes, we are invaders, robbers, and provoking their dignity as the rulers of the underworld king's hell. Yi Zhong said. Then it's really not easy. Madman muttered. Don't worry about this. We will handle it. You just stay here and recuperate. Black Dragon Ancestral Gregon looked at Madman and said before looking at Yi Zhong, since Old Fire and Her Highness aren't here yet, why don't we make another trip to the ancient city? Sure. Yi Zhong pondered for a while and nodded. Then, Yi Zhong looked at the blood-robed youth and the others and reminded, be careful. The blood demon race has already made their move. They might find this place. Everyone nodded. Swoosh. Yi Zhong and Black Dragon Ancestral Gregon immediately soared into the sky and flew out of the mountain range. Madman looked at the chief pavilion master and the others before sitting cross-legged and closing his eyes to cultivate. In the past half a year, he discovered a very magical phenomenon. Not only could he absorb the evil force to cultivate, but he could also achieve twice the results with half the effort. He was not the only one who was puzzled. Even the Black Dragon Ancestral Gregon was puzzled. Old Black, why do you want to accept Madman as your disciple on a whim? Above the mountain range. Yi Zhong looked at Black Dragon Ancestral Gregon suspiciously. It's not a whim. Black Dragon Ancestral Gregon shook his head. What do you mean? Yi Zhong was puzzled. You don't know. This kid can actually absorb the evil force to cultivate. Black Dragon Ancestral Gregon said. It can't be. Yi Zhong stopped and his face was filled with shock. It's true. Moreover, he absorbs the evil force at a faster speed than when he cultivates. Black Dragon Ancestral Gregon said. How could there be such a thing? Yi Zhong frowned. I don't know either. Even he doesn't know what's going on. That's why I accepted him as my disciple. Perhaps this ability of his can help us in Fallen Valley. Black Dragon Ancestral Gregon said. Fallen Valley. Yi Zhong was shocked and said, you want to enter Fallen Valley? That's right. I've come to hell so many times but I've never really entered Fallen Valley. This time, I must go and take a look. Chapter 2584. In the blink of an eye, the night passed. Qin Feiyang followed Wu Baichuan out of the cave and looked at the mountains and rivers outside. The evil sun had risen. The whole world was shrouded in a blood-red color. If we can absorb this evil power, we can do whatever we want in the Nether King's hell. Wu Baichuan looked at the evil sun and sighed. Absorb the evil power? How can anyone do such a thing? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He didn't know that a lunatic could do it. Yes. Absorbing the evil power is tantamount to suicide. Wu Baichuan nodded. Senior brother, how are we going to find out about the city? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Wu Baichuan pondered for a while and said, let's go back to the lake and take a look. Maybe there are still blood demons waiting there. Waiting? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and secretly sneered. Who would be so stupid? Let's go. Wu Baichuan waved his hand and led Qin Feiyang into the jungle below, quietly rushing in the direction of the lake. Not long after, the two of them arrived in front of the lake. The lake had been destroyed in the battle last night. Looking around, not to mention the blood demons, even the body of the blood-eyed giant had disappeared. Why don't these idiots play by the rules? Wu Baichuan frowned. Common sense? Qin Feiyang was really speechless. If they waited here, they would be playing by the rules. Were they looking down on the intelligence of the blood demons? Wu Baichuan turned his head and glanced at Qin Feiyang, frowning and said, "It seems that you are a little dissatisfied with my decision." "No, no." Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand and said with a flattering smile, "I just think that there is no need to go through so much trouble." "Tell me about it," Wu Baichuan said. "Since there is an ancient castle nearby, I believe that even if we don't look for the blood demons, we can still find out." Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "If we don't look for the blood demons, then who do we look for?" Wu Baichuan frowned. "Beasts," Qin Feiyang said. He was speechless. Wasn't this person's mind yesterday? Why did he seem like a different person today? His stupidity made him want to laugh. "Yes. You can ask the beasts." Wu Baichuan's eyes. "You of it, of a person, of a man's. Of it. Not bad." Wu Baichuan nodded and scanned the surroundings. Blood demons were hard to find, but ferocious beasts were everywhere. The two searched nearby for a while and soon found a beast. It was a hare. However, its body was 5 to 6 meters long. Its whole body was covered with blood-red hair. Its eyes were also blood-red, making it look extremely ferocious. "I wonder if this hare can be eaten," Wu Baichuan whispered. "Eaten?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. "I heard that there is an ancient city nearby," Wu Baichuan asked. Yes. The blood rabbit nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at each other. The blood-eyed giant didn't lie to them. "How far is it?" Wu Baichuan said. The blood rabbit said, "Not far, half a month's journey." "What?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Half a month's journey wasn't far. The corner of Wu Baichuan's mouth twitched slightly. Did this damn rabbit have some misunderstanding about the word "not far"? Of course. With your cultivation, it won't take that long. 3 days at most. The blood rabbit looked at Wu Baichuan and smiled flatteringly. That's more like it. Wu Baichuan nodded. After pondering for a while, he said, "Then take us there." "No." The blood rabbit immediately shook its head, its eyes full of panic. "Why?" Qin Feiyang and the other man looked at it suspiciously. The blood demon race has long had a rule. Except for their own race, no living beings are allowed to enter the ancient cities. Once they are found, they will be killed without mercy. The blood rabbit said. "I see." Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, "Don't worry, we won't let you enter the ancient city. You just need to take us to the ancient city." The blood rabbit was hesitant. Wu Baichuan laughed sinisterly, "I'm not discussing with you, I'm ordering you." The blood rabbit shrank its neck and nodded, Okay, I'll take you there, but you have to promise me that when I bring you to the ancient city, you will let me go." "No problem." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Then let's go." The blood rabbit got up and ran towards the east. "You're too slow." Wu Baichuan caught up with the blood rabbit with Qin Feiyang and said coldly. Then, he rolled up the blood rabbit and flew away like lightning. "Human. Blood rabbit, you damn bastard, you actually mixed with humans. I'm going to kill you." But soon, they encountered trouble. Several huge beasts blocked their way, glaring at the blood rabbit and Qin Feiyang. The blood rabbit panicked. Helping foreign invaders was a big taboo in hell. "Die!" Wu Baichuan coldly snorted and directly attacked, killing a few beasts. The blood rabbit continued to point the way. Qin Feiyang frowned. Next. That would be troublesome. From time to time, they would encounter beasts. Fortunately, these beasts were not very strong. The highest was only at the initial stage of the 9 heavens realm. Otherwise, it would definitely be difficult to move an inch. Qin Feiyang finally couldn't help but look at Wu Baichuan and suggest, "Senior brother, this is not the way to go down. Why don't we let the blood rabbit hurry up?" N. Wu Baichuan frowned. "Look, the blood rabbit is so big. We can lie in its fur. As long as we restrain our aura, we won't be discovered by other beasts. Although this way, we will need to spend more time on our journey, at least we won't encounter any trouble." Qin Feiyang said. "I agree." The blood rabbit nodded. Chapter 2585. That city covered an area of about hundreds of thousands of miles. Ancient buildings towered into the sky. The four walls were also dozens of meters high, like a black python. In the city, giants could be faintly seen walking. The blood rabbit stopped at the top of a mountain. Seeing that there were no ferocious beasts nearby paying attention to this side, it whispered, "Come out quickly." Qin Feiyang and Li Wuyo rushed out of the fur and landed on the cliff in front of the blood rabbit, looking at the ancient city. Seeing the ancient city occupied by the blood demons, both of them were deeply shocked. They had never seen such a tall and majestic city. It was really an eye-opener. The blood rabbit looked at the backs of the two and slowly retreated. The corners of Wu Baichuan's mouth lifted. He turned around and slapped the blood rabbit's head. The blood rabbit immediately let out a miserable howl and was destroyed. Qin Feiyang was shocked. Wu Baichuan said, "We definitely can't keep it. Otherwise, when it notifies the blood demons, we will be doomed." "That makes sense." Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at the ancient city again. He asked, "How are we going to get in?" "Of course, we're going to kill our way in. There must be a lot of divine objects in this ancient city. Let's snatch these divine objects and leave." Wu Baichuan smiled coldly. "Are you sure you can beat the 50,000 to 60,000 blood demons in the city with your strength?" Qin Feiyang frowned. To put it nicely, he was courageous and insightful. To put it bluntly, he was bold but not astute. One had to know. This was also the nest of the blood demons. Wouldn't it be like a sheep walking into a tiger's den and walking into a trap? What can you do if you're so cowardly? If you don't dare to go, just stay here. But don't even think about taking any of the divine objects that I get later." Wu Baichuan sneered. "Senior brother, this is not about the divine objects. We'd better find out the situation of the ancient city first." Qin Feiyang said. "You talk too much nonsense." Wu Baichuan glared at him. He took out his Fengtian halberd and rushed towards the ancient city. "I really overestimated you." Qin Feiyang muttered to himself as he looked at Wu Baichuan's back. There should be a limit to arrogance. Very soon, Wu Baichuan rushed to the city gate. There were two giants guarding the two sides of the city gate. Their cultivations were both at the half-step 9 heavens realm. Above the city gate, there were 4 big words. The mysterious heaven ancient city. Human. Wu Baichuan did not conceal his aura. Thus, the moment he appeared, the two giants in front of the city gate discovered him. Boom! Immediately, the two giants soared into the air, waving their huge fists, smashing towards Wu Baichuan. Die! Wu Baichuan coldly laughed. His ancient halberd instantly awakened, and a gigantic python roared as it shot forth. Along with a loud bang, the two giants were crushed into pieces and their blood dyed the sky red. What's going on? It's a human. How dare you come to our mysterious heaven ancient city? You really don't know what's good for you. The blood demons in the city were immediately alarmed. They all soared into the sky and charged towards Wu Baichuan. I know the power of the blood demons like the back of my hand. Killing you will be easier than killing dogs. Wu Baichuan smiled coldly. He held the Fengtian halberd in his hand and charged into the city like a god of war, leaving corpses all over the ground. He's indeed powerful. Qin Feiyang stood at the top of the mountain and watched this scene with a glint in his eyes. The powerful he was referring to was not Wu Baichuan's power, but the Fangtian halberd, a supreme divine artifact. With a supreme divine artifact, as long as he did not encounter any blood demons at the peak 9 heavens realm, as long as it was not at night, Wu Baichuan could basically defeat them. However, was there really no blood demons at the peak 9 heavens realm in such a big city? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked at the city wall, the city gate, and the buildings in the city with a trace of surprise in his eyes. Wu Baichuan held the Fangtian halberd in his hand and was invincible. However, even if Wu Baichuan attacked unscrupulously in the city, there was no trace of damage. Something was wrong. How could a mere ancient city withstand the battle of such an overlord? Qin Feiyang jumped down from the top of the mountain, restrained his aura, and went in another direction, approaching the ancient city. The city wall emitted a cold aura. Qin Feiyang raised his arm and pressed it on the city wall. His eyes suddenly trembled. This was not an ordinary city. It was a divine artifact. Because he sensed the aura of a divine artifact. Immediately, Qin Feiyang retracted his arm and turned to rush into the forest outside the city. Since the mysterious sky ancient city was a divine artifact, it must have an artifact spirit. If there was an artifact spirit, it would definitely discover his existence, so he had to leave immediately. Rushing to a small hill in the distance, Qin Feiyang turned to look at the ancient city, his eyes flickering. Even the Fangtian halberd could not damage the mysterious sky ancient city, which meant that this ancient city was at least a supreme divine artifact. An ancient city with a supreme divine artifact? Wasn't this a little too unbelievable? Boom! Clang! The battle in the city became more and more intense. Qin Feiyang returned to the top of the mountain again and looked into the city. He was stunned again. Those blood demons were basically holding a divine artifact in their hands at this moment. Swords, spears, sticks, and everything. And judging from the aura, they were basically peak level and legendary divine artifacts. No way. They are all peak level and legendary divine artifacts. Qin Feiyang found it hard to believe and carefully identified them. In the end, he didn't even see a perfect divine artifact. They were all peak level and legendary divine artifacts. The lowest was the peak level and legendary divine artifact. The Nether King's Hell was indeed a huge treasure trove. One had to know. Even in the divine land, peak level and legendary divine artifacts were only owned by people with a little status and strength. But here, they were everywhere on the street like radishes and cabbages. Of course, these divine artifacts were not too tempting for Qin Feiyang. However, for others, such as the disciples of the Dragon God Palace, they were like treasures. Especially legendary divine artifacts. Even in the Dragon God Palace, Qin Feiyang didn't see many of them. Snatch the divine artifacts. Kill. Suddenly, angry roars sounded and the sound of killing shook the sky. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and hurriedly looked down. He saw a large group of people rushing out of the forest not far from the city gate. There were men and women, old and young. Their cultivation was also from the War God realm, Divine Lord realm, Supreme realm, and Ninth Heaven realm. At a glance, there were more than 1,000 people. Why are there so many? Qin Feiyang was shocked. Wu Baichuan, who was standing in the middle of the killing, was also shocked by this sudden scene. Wu Shixiang, let us help you. Several young men and women of the Ninth Heaven realm rushed to the front and roared. Among these people, a small number of them were from the Dragon God Palace. It's you. You came at the right time. Come with me and kill all these beasts. Wu Baichuan looked at the young men and women, who seemed to know each other before, and suddenly laughed. Holding the sky halberd, he crazily killed the blood demons. This is a peak-level divine artifact, this is a legendary divine artifact, we're rich. However, there were also people who only cared about picking up the divine artifacts on the ground, their faces full of excitement. These divine artifacts were naturally dropped on the ground after the blood demons were killed. Wu Shixiang, we are really lucky to meet you. The cultivation of the young men and women were all at the peak of the Nine Heavens realm. They followed Wu Baichuan and slaughtered without restraint in the front. Moreover, they also had legendary divine artifacts in their hands. Ha! Wu Baichuan was in high spirits and said, "Why are you all gathered outside the city?" "Of course we want to enter the mysterious sky ancient city. We were actually the first to arrive because we arrived near the mysterious sky ancient city. When we saw that these blood demons actually had peak level and legendary divine artifacts, we wanted to kill our way in. But due to their strength, we didn't dare, so we hid outside the city. Because of this, more and more people have come here in the past half a year. Everyone is waiting for an opportunity. But I never expected that senior brother would also come to the mysterious sky ancient city. The heavens are really helping us. With Wu Shixiang here, we will definitely be able to slaughter these blood demons." The young men and women said. "That's a must." Wu Baichuan laughed. The group of people went crazy, and the blood demons fell one after another. People at Wu Baichuan's level wouldn't even bat an eye at pinnacle grade and legendary grade divine artifacts. Therefore, they were all taken advantage of by the people behind. For example, the war god and the divine lord were basically at the back, happily picking up divine artifacts. With their cultivation, they could only do this kind of thing. Because they couldn't help. A young woman looked back at those people and snorted coldly. These trash only know how to hide behind and take advantage of others. Wu Baichuan turned his head and looked. His eyes immediately surged with a cold light. He said with a voice transmission, "Don't worry about them. Anyway, they have to obediently hand it over to us later. If they don't hand it over, then don't blame me for being ruthless." "That's true." The young woman nodded with a cold smile in her eyes. Looking at Qin Feiyang again. No matter how many people appeared, he didn't join in the fun. Because he believed that the blood demons definitely wouldn't allow Wu Baichuan and the others to continue killing as they pleased. In the city, there were definitely blood demons at the Great Perfection Ninth Heaven realm. "Wu Shixiang, you're really invincible. Wu Shixiang, let us follow you." Seeing Wu Baichuan holding the sky halberd and killing in all directions like a god demon, many people were full of admiration. Wu Baichuan was so proud of himself that he felt like he was about to float. But there were also some people who greedily stared at the sky halberd in Wu Baichuan's hand. The reason why Wu Baichuan was so powerful was because of this supreme-level divine artifact. If they also had a supreme-level divine artifact, they could also kill the blood demons. Boom! Just as the group of people was full of confidence, the mysterious sky ancient city suddenly shook violently. Buzz! Immediately after, bright blood-red light soared into the sky from the city walls on all sides. In just an instant, a huge blood-red barrier appeared out of nowhere. Immediately, the entire mysterious sky ancient city was enveloped by the barrier. What's going on? The group of people raised their heads and looked at the barrier in bewilderment. At the same time, the blood demons who were still fighting with Wu Baichuan and the others turned around and flew out of the city. Everyone was bewildered. Are they finally going to be serious? On the mountain peak, Qin Feiyang whispered. As soon as this barrier appeared, Wu Baichuan and the others were like turtles in a jar. Chapter 2586. In just a few seconds, the entire mysterious sky ancient city had become an empty city. All the blood demons rushed out of the barrier and stood in the void outside the city, coldly looking at Wu Baichuan and the others. Wu Shixiang, something is wrong. Why don't we withdraw from the city first? The group of people scanned the dead ancient city and couldn't help but panic. Retreat! Wu Baichuan also felt a little scared and shouted. Immediately, the group of people turned around and rushed toward the city gate. However, The few people who were running at the front were surprised to find that the city gate had been closed without them knowing when it had happened. Wu Shixiang, the city gate is closed. They hurriedly shouted. Wu Baichuan looked at the city gate and shouted, "Go out through the barrier above." Immediately, the group of people rose into the air again and rushed toward the barrier. However, when the few people who ran to the front wanted to pass through the barrier, they found that they couldn't. What's going on? The group of people was surprised and puzzled. Weren't the blood demons able to pass through the barrier? Why do I feel like this is a cage? Wu Shixiang, something is wrong. Quick, look. The streets and the houses are actually undamaged. Everyone finally noticed this abnormality. Wu Baichuan was slightly stunned and hurriedly looked at the streets and houses below. His pupils suddenly shrank. Sure enough, on the streets, except for the corpses and blood all over the ground, there was no damage. Why is this happening? Logically speaking, with our strength, destroying the entire city is not a problem. The young men and women standing beside Wu Baichuan who were at the peak of the Nine Heavens realm were also shocked. Get out of the way. Wu Baichuan suddenly shouted, raised the sky halberd and slashed at the barrier. The crowd in front quickly dispersed. Their eyes were full of expectation. Because now, only Wu Baichuan had the ability to get them out. However, they didn't realize that the blood demon standing outside the boundary had a mocking expression as he watched Wu Baichuan's actions. Boom! The sky halberd hit the barrier. The barrier immediately trembled and twisted. A small crack appeared, but before Wu Baichuan and the others could be happy, the crack quickly healed. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even a supreme divine artifact couldn't break this barrier. Wu Baichuan's heart sank. He rushed to the city gate and slashed the sky halberd crazily. An enormous clang resounded out as an expanse of blood-red light suddenly appeared on the city gate, and it actually forcefully blocked the halberd. How could this be? It's just a city gate. Everyone's faces were full of shock. Wu Baichuan withdrew his gaze and turned around to scan the city. He said in a low voice, "This ancient city is a supreme-grade divine artifact." What? This ancient city is a divine artifact? Everyone was dumbfounded. Indeed. Wu Baichuan nodded. Because only a supreme divine artifact could not be broken by the sky halberd. A supreme divine artifact was the same as a heaven-defying divine artifact. Given that they were both god artifacts, it would be impossible for them to destroy one another in a short period of time. Unbelievable. Such a huge ancient city is actually a supreme divine artifact. Everyone's faces were full of shock. Come with me and break the barrier. Wu Baichuan looked at the young men and women and roared. The young men and women nodded. Clang! The sky halberd in Wu Baichuan's hand and the legendary divine artifacts in the hands of the young men and women quickly recovered. Dong! But at the same time, the center of the ancient city suddenly shook. Dong! Immediately after, deafening footsteps could be heard coming from a huge palace in the middle of the palace. The palace was more than 10,000 feet tall and covered dozens of miles. It was dark all over, like a towering mountain. Clang! The next moment, the palace gate opened. The gate was more than 1,000 feet tall, like a gate to heaven. Wu Baichuan and the others all looked at the gate of the palace. A blurry figure gradually walked out of the palace. Boom! At the same time, a terrifying aura surged out like a tidal wave. This aura had reached the peak of the Nine Heavens realm. Soon, the figure became clear. It was a cyclops that was 50 meters tall. That's right. He only had one eye. But that eye was bigger than a dustpan and looked like it was made of blood. It was full of murderous intent. And the muscles on his body were like huge rocks, full of explosive power. The Cyclops stepped out of the palace and appeared in front of Wu Baichuan and the others. The violent aura shook all directions. So tall. The group of people was dumbfounded. This was the tallest giant they had seen so far. Dong! However, the footsteps sounded again. It came from the palace again. And this time, it was more than one person's footsteps. The ground of the entire mysterious sky ancient city shook. Almost in the next moment, one by one, the blood-eyed giants walked out of the palace. Compared to the Cyclops, they were slightly shorter. But almost all of them were 30 to 40 meters tall. And their cultivation had reached the peak of the Nine Heavens realm. So many giants at the peak of the Nine Heavens realm? The group of people was dumbfounded. As the last giant walked out of the palace, the place fell into a short period of silence. And there were a total of 21 giants in front of the palace, including the Cyclops. In other words, Wu Baichuan and the others were about to face 21 blood-eyed giants at the peak of the Nine Heavens realm. This lineup made the group of people despair. Quick! Wu Baichuan shouted. To be honest, he regretted not listening to Qin Feiyang. Clang! Wu Baichuan and the other young men and women immediately waved the divine artifacts in their hands and wildly attacked the barrier. Crack! A half-meter-long crack suddenly appeared on the barrier. Let's go! Wu Baichuan was overjoyed and immediately rushed toward the crack. The young men and women and the others were also overjoyed. However, at the same time, another bloody light suddenly rushed out from the four walls, and the cracks were instantly repaired as if they had never been there before. Wu Baichuan suddenly stopped in front of the barrier and looked at it with a pale face. I really don't know who gave you dwarfs the guts to attack our mysterious sky ancient city. Don't leave a single one alive. Kill them all. At this moment, the Cyclops standing in front of the palace suddenly spoke. His voice was like a bell and his face was full of disdain. Although the Cyclops had just finished speaking, the 20 blood-eyed giants around him immediately rose into the air and charged toward Wu Baichuan and the others with a destructive aura. Wu Shixiang, what should we do? The group of people panicked to the extreme. What else can we do now? Kill! Wu Baichuan shouted. Full power! Clang! Wu Baichuan's halberd emitted a world-destroying sharpness as he charged towards the group of giants. The young men and women could only brace themselves and follow. Clang! But at the same time, the 20 blood-eyed giants also took out a divine artifact. Sabers, spears, swords, halberds, everything. As these divine artifacts recovered, each of them emitted an aura that was not inferior to the Sky Piercer. Obviously, these were all supreme-level divine artifacts. This time, even Wu Baichuan could not help but feel a sense of despair. He quickly stopped and looked at the divine artifacts in the hands of the giants. Each of them has a supreme-level divine artifact. How are we going to fight them? The young men and women's faces were also pale. As for the others, they were already paralyzed on the ground and trembling in fear. Why did it become like this? If they had known, they would never have entered the mysterious sky ancient city. Do I regret it? Unfortunately, it's too late. At the peak of the mountain, Qin Feiyang looked at this scene and muttered to himself. Truth be told, when the Blood Demon tribe revealed their true strength, even he was shocked. 21 Great Perfection 9 Heavens Realm Cultivators. 20 Supreme-level Divine Artifacts. No. Including the mysterious sky ancient city, there were exactly 21 supreme-level divine artifacts. With such a terrifying lineup, no one could defeat them unless they had a heaven-defying divine artifact or a heaven-defying divine art. Fortunately, he did not follow Wu Baichuan into danger. Otherwise, he would be in the same situation as these people. There was no way out. Even if Wu Baichuan managed to kill the one-eyed giant in the end, they would have died long ago. You pieces of trash, hurry up and self-destruct. In the meantime, Wu Baichuan also roared in his heart. Actually, he didn't plan to kill the one-eyed giant at all. He wanted to use the 20 blood-eyed giants to force the young men and women. These young men and women were all at the Great Perfection Ninth Heaven realm. If they self-destructed, they would definitely be able to destroy the enchantment. They might even be able to kill those giants. Also, there was a deeper meaning behind what he said earlier. Why don't you self-destruct as soon as possible? That was because it was an indirect reminder. In short, although it seemed like a joke, it actually had a certain effect on the young men and women subconsciously. For example, when they were in a desperate situation, they would subconsciously think of self-destructing. But now, they didn't self-destruct. This made Wu Baichuan very anxious. Did he really have to fight the one-eyed giant? To be honest, he really didn't want to continue fighting with the blood demon race. Because it wouldn't do him any good. Die. In the blink of an eye. After the 20 blood-eyed giants destroyed the deity arts, they continued to attack the young men and women. At this moment, their hearts were shrouded in despair and helplessness that couldn't be dispelled. The thought of self-destructing indeed arose in their minds. But who was willing to self-destruct? Self-destruct wasn't an injury that could be recovered. Self-destruct would kill them. No one was willing. But if no one self-destructed now, they would all die. Self-destruct was the only way to survive. Only by self-destructing can you have a chance to survive. Although self-destructing will destroy your divine soul, as long as you split a wisp of your divine soul in advance, you still have a chance to rebuild your divine soul and physical body. Suddenly, a voice rolled over. There are still humans? The blood demons outside the city heard this voice and immediately looked towards a mountain peak, their eyes flashing fiercely. That's right. The owner of this voice was Qin Feiyang. Originally, he didn't want to interfere, but he saw through Wu Baichuan's purpose. He wanted to force them to self-destruct and fight for a way to survive. Anyway, Wu Baichuan wouldn't die, so he might as well be a good person and save the others. Similarly, he also expected that as long as he reminded them, their whereabouts would definitely be exposed. While the group of blood demons looked at the mountain peak, Qin Feiyang entered the forest below like lightning and disappeared. Yes. We split a wisp of our divine soul and self-destruct. Several young men and women patted their heads. Why didn't they think of such a simple thing? I'll self-destruct. You must take my divine soul and escape. One of the young men immediately split a wisp of his divine soul and handed it to a young woman. Don't worry. We will. The young woman grabbed the divine soul and nodded solemnly. Quickly hide far away, lest you get hurt. The young man roared. The young woman and the others immediately turned and fled. The young man also immediately rushed towards the 20 blood-eyed giants, his eyes full of madness. Self-destruct, the Cyclops muttered. Wu Baichuan also heard Qin Feiyang's words and was overjoyed. He glanced at the young man and rushed towards the city wall. All of you, die. The young man roared. Boom. His body suddenly exploded in the void. A destructive aura surged out like a torrent. The barrier above the city gate bore the brunt of it. This was because the young man was not far from the city gate. Crack. The barrier immediately shattered. Once the barrier above the city gate was broken, the entire barrier immediately collapsed. Retreat. The blood-eyed giant shouted. The blood demons that had gathered outside all retreated. The void shattered at this moment. The 20 blood-eyed giants were also sent flying, their bodies covered in blood in an instant. Even the 20 supreme-grade divine artifacts were shattered into pieces. Wu Baichuan and the others also took the opportunity to rush out of the city and escape towards the mountains outside the city. Stop them! The Cyclops roared. His huge body was like a towering mountain, and his aura was monstrous. Although he was also severely injured, with a roar, the evil sun in the sky sent down a ray of blood-red light, and his injuries immediately began to heal. At the same time, the other 20 blood-eyed giants also summoned the power of the evil sun to heal their injuries. Even injuries like this can be healed. Qin Feiyang hid in the distance and watched this scene. He was quite shocked. Wu Baichuan and the others were also in disbelief. They thought that the young man's self-destruction would at least kill the other 20 giants, if not the Cyclops. They did not expect that not a single one of them died. Come over quickly. I'll take you out. Wu Baichuan shouted at the young woman and the others. They immediately rushed to Wu Baichuan's side. Kill whoever dares to block the way. Wu Baichuan roared. He held the sky piercer in his hand and charged towards the blood demons in front of him. Fear rose in the hearts of the blood demons when they saw Wu Baichuan's crazy appearance, and they instinctively retreated to the side. Wu Baichuan successfully escaped with the others and disappeared into the mountains without looking back. Damn it! Go after them immediately. If they're alive, I want to see them. If they're dead, I want to see their corpses. The Cyclops rushed into the sky and roared angrily as he looked at the backs of Wu Baichuan and the others. His eyes were filled with a strong cold light. Roar! Immediately. As long as the supreme artifact was given the power of law, it would naturally evolve into a heaven-defying artifact. Therefore, supreme-grade artifacts were still very tempting. Furthermore, Qin Feiyang didn't have any supreme-grade divine artifacts other than the soul-anchoring divine pearl. However, the soul-anchoring divine pearl's only effect was to protect the soul and did not have any lethality. Therefore, the soul-anchoring divine pearl was not very useful in battle. Therefore, he had to have other supreme-grade divine artifacts. At present, the mysterious heaven ancient city was the best choice. Because this mysterious heaven ancient city was not only a supreme-grade divine artifact, but also half a spatial divine artifact. It could be lived in. For example, he could meet up with the Frenzy and the White-Eyed Wolf. The Frenzy and the White-Eyed Wolf could stay in the mysterious heaven ancient city. When fighting with enemies, Qin Feiyang could summon the Frenzy and the White-Eyed Wolf and kill them by surprise. Of course, he was also very tempted by the other supreme-grade divine artifacts of the blood demon race. Because in the Nether King's Hell, he couldn't use any heaven-defying divine artifacts. The supreme-grade divine artifacts that were second only to the heaven-defying divine artifacts were the top combat power. They were also the most powerful existences. The more supreme-grade divine artifacts he had, the more helpful it would be for him when fighting the dragons in the future. However, to obtain the mysterious heaven ancient city and these supreme-grade divine artifacts, he first had to defeat these blood demons. But the cultivation of these blood demons was much higher than his. With his current strength, he definitely wouldn't be able to fight with these blood demons. It seemed that he couldn't take it by force. He could only use his wits. With the concealment technique and the divine moon jade pendant, even if I enter the mysterious heaven ancient city, I shouldn't be discovered by the artifact spirit. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself and decisively flew into the air toward the mysterious heaven ancient city. After the commotion caused by Wu Baichuan and the others, not only were there blood demons guarding the city gates, but also the city walls. There was a sentry every 3 steps and a sentry every 7 steps. The security was extremely tight. Moreover, these blood demons were very strong and were basically half a step into the 9th heaven realm. Qin Feiyang entered the mysterious heaven ancient city and stood on the city walls. He waited for a while, but the barrier didn't appear. There was no commotion in the city either. This meant that the artifact spirit of the mysterious heaven ancient city hadn't discovered his existence. Qin Feiyang was relieved and boldly flew toward the palace in the center. There was a limit to the perception of a divine artifact. Qin Feiyang stared at the 10 jade slips, and his face was filled with disbelief. The aura coming from the 10 jade slips was at the level of a supreme-level divine spell. In other words, these were 10 supreme-level divine spells. Chapter 2589. Just how terrifying was the Blood Demon Clan's foundation? 10 supreme-grade divine arts in one move. Qin Feiyang couldn't calm down. But the Cyclops didn't care at all. He looked at the 20 blood-eyed giants and said, "These supreme-grade auxiliary divine arts are for you." "Thank you, City Lord." The 20 blood-eyed giants hurriedly bowed and expressed their gratitude before each of them grabbed a jade slip. "And they're all auxiliary divine arts," Qin Feiyang murmured. No wonder the dragons didn't tell the public about the Nether King's hell. Who would be willing to let outsiders take advantage of such a place? It was no exaggeration. If one was lucky, they could get a lot of opportunities in the Nether King's hell. "Go out." The Cyclops waved his hand. The 20 blood-eyed giants turned and walked out. The Cyclops waved his hand again and the palace gates slowly closed. Qin Feiyang also hurriedly left the hall. Otherwise, when the gate closed, he wouldn't have a chance to leave. There was a large square in front of the palace. When Qin Feiyang left the palace, he saw the 20 blood-eyed giants sitting cross-legged on the square and starting to comprehend the divine arts in their hands. Looking at the 10 jade slips, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but wonder if he should take the opportunity to snatch them. But after thinking about it, he gave up on the idea. He didn't lack supreme-grade divine arts. For example, the Divine Dragon Art, Fire Phoenix Art, Soul Destruction Art, Sky Dragon 9 Steps, Fire Thunder Divine Art, Divine Armor, Bright King Golden Body, and Qilin Art were all supreme-grade divine arts. In other words, supreme-grade divine arts weren't of much help to him. Right now, supreme-grade divine artifacts were the most important. There was also the matter of cultivation. He had to break through to the 9 Heavens realm as soon as possible. Otherwise, supreme-grade divine arts and divine artifacts would be useless. Because these divine arts and divine artifacts couldn't break through the shackles of a major realm like divine artifacts and divine arts. But now, he had just reached the greater divine stage. From the greater divine stage to the peak divine stage, he needed to refine 60 billion soul stones. According to his current refining speed, it would take him more than 73,000 years. If it was in the ancient castle or the Black Tortoise world, it wouldn't take so long. 100 years a day. 10 days 1,000 years. 100 days was 10,000 years. It would only take slightly more than 700 days. However, the problem was that there was no way to enter the ancient castle or the Black Tortoise realm. In other words, it would take him more than 70,000 years to break through to the consummate paragon god level. He couldn't guarantee that he'd be able to reach the half-step 9 Heavens realm after reaching perfection paramount god. Why hadn't he seen anyone? Although 100 years was a short time in the Nether King's hell, someone should have come. Let's not talk about this first. I'll go to the ancient city and see if I can find any opportunities. Qin Feiyang muttered and silently entered the mysterious sky ancient city again. At this time, there was no 9 Heavens realm aura in the mysterious sky ancient city except for the one-eyed giant. However, because of this, all the blood demons above the 9 Heavens realm had left and the mysterious sky ancient city was even more guarded than before. However, this wasn't a problem for Qin Feiyang. He successfully hid in front of the palace in the center of the ancient city again, but the door was tightly shut. Looking at the entire palace, there was no other way to enter. My head hurts. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead. It was really difficult to enter the ancient castle and the Black Tortoise realm. If he wanted to kill the one-eyed giant, he had to get close to him first. But now, he couldn't even enter the door. How could he kill him? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang thought of a plan and rushed out of the ancient city. He raised his head and a blood-red divine power appeared and blasted into the mysterious sky ancient city. This was the power of the purple gold divine dragon. However, because the power of the divine dragon was concealed, he couldn't sense any dragon aura at all. But its lethality didn't decrease at all. Boom! The divine power blasted into the ancient city. There was a deafening explosion. More than a dozen blood-eyed giants were also severely injured. Who is it? The blood-eyed giant on the city wall was startled. He scanned the sky but didn't see anyone. Boom! Finally, the door of the palace in the center of the ancient city opened. The one-eyed giant walked out and shouted, "What is it?" Qin Feiyang immediately entered the mysterious sky ancient city and silently flew to the one-eyed giant's side like a ghost. A blood-eyed giant on the city wall immediately pointed at the sky and said, "City Lord, a divine power suddenly appeared in the sky and blasted into the city, injuring several of our people." A divine power appeared? The one-eyed giant was stunned. "Yes. I only saw divine power, but I didn't see anyone," the blood-eyed giant said. The other blood-eyed giants nodded. The one-eyed giant frowned and released his divine will. It instantly covered the entire mysterious sky ancient city, but he didn't find anything. What's going on? The one-eyed giant's frown became tighter. At this moment, Qin Feiyang was also hesitating. Right now. He was standing right next to the one-eyed giant. If he attacked now, the one-eyed giant wouldn't be able to react. However, he wasn't confident that he could break the one-eyed giant's body. The blood demon's bodies were extremely tough and the only divine weapons he could use right now were the blue phoenix sword and the dragon staff. But those two divine weapons were only at the legendary level. If he couldn't break the one-eyed giant's body, he would be trapped like Wu Baichuan and the others when the one-eyed giant summoned a barrier. If only Chang Shui was here. With Chang Shui's power, even if the one-eyed giant's body was comparable to that of an imperishable realm overlord, it could still be easily broken. Wait. Even if Chang Shui was here, there was nothing he could do. Because Chang Shui was also a divine weapon. No. I can't think about those divine weapons anymore. I can't continue to rely on them. Even without those divine weapons, there must be a way. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Unknowingly, he thought of Chang Shui, the castle, the sunset divine bow and the other divine weapons. This wasn't a normal dependence anymore. Now, he had to forget about those divine weapons and rely on his own ability and brain to survive in hell. After a while, the one-eyed giant retracted his divine will and said, "There must be a human hiding in the dark and using some despicable means. You must be careful and inform me immediately if there's any movement." His voice was like a bell that resounded over the entire ancient city. Yes. The blood-eyed giants on the city wall replied in unison. Their voices were also deafening. The one-eyed giant turned around and returned to the palace. Qin Feiyang hesitated for a bit and followed him into the palace. But this time, the one-eyed giant didn't close the palace door, probably to deal with the unexpected situation outside in time. Qin Feiyang stood in the air and stared at the one-eyed giant. Who cares? Let's try first. In the end, Qin Feiyang clenched his teeth and flew above the one-eyed giant's head. If he wanted to kill it with one attack, he had to attack the one-eyed giant's divine soul. Blue Phoenix Sword, don't let me down. Qin Feiyang murmured and was about to take out the Blue Phoenix Sword. Boom! But at this moment, an earth-shattering sound suddenly came from outside. Qin Feiyang was startled. The one-eyed giant that had just sat down also got up and his red eyes were emitting a terrifying light. The two of them entered the palace one after the other and immediately saw a group of people standing in the sky above the ancient city. There were men and women, old and young. There were at least 10,000 people. The lowest cultivation level was at the half 9 heavens state. There were even 500 to 600 peak 9 heavens state cultivators. Every one of them was murderous. And standing at the front was a young man in purple. Both Qin Feiyang and the one-eyed giant were very familiar with him. It was Wu Baichuan. The young woman and the others were also standing next to Wu Baichuan. They're still here. And there are so many people gathered here. Qin Feiyang was stunned. No wonder no one had come to the mysterious sky ancient city all these years. It turned out that Wu Baichuan and the others had stopped them in advance. Chapter 2590. The Cyclops stared at Wu Baichuan and the others and shouted, "What do you want? Take a guess." Wu Baichuan smiled mockingly. "Not interested." The Cyclops snorted. "How boring. All right, I won't beat around the bush. Hand over the mysterious sky ancient city immediately and I'll spare your lives." Wu Baichuan said coldly. The mysterious sky ancient city? All the treasures? The Cyclops looked at Wu Baichuan in shock. This person was probably an idiot. He sneered. "It seems that the loss you suffered last time wasn't enough." Ha! Wu Baichuan laughed loudly. The young woman and the others also had mocking expressions. Looking at the expressions of the group, the Cyclops couldn't help but frown. The blood demons above the Nine Heavens realm have already left the mysterious sky ancient city. In other words, you're the only peak Nine Heavens realm cultivator in the mysterious sky ancient city. As for the other blood demons, the strongest is only at the Paragon God realm. Do you think you can stop us with your current strength? Wu Baichuan laughed. You're monitoring us? The Cyclops' heart sank. You've caused such a big commotion. Do you still need to monitor us? However, we didn't leave because we were waiting for an opportunity. And now is undoubtedly a good opportunity. Wu Baichuan said. It's just as the dragon said. You humans are sinister, cunning, and shameless creatures. The Cyclops shouted. Yo! You know about the dragons? Everyone was surprised. Isn't that obvious? The dragons have been to the Nether King's hell countless times. The blood demons definitely know about them. Wu Baichuan rolled his eyes. That's true. Everyone nodded. Wu Baichuan looked at the Cyclops and sneered. In the human world, there's no such thing as despicable. There's only one principle, the winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. Everyone, leave the ancient city immediately. The Cyclops' pupils shrank as he roared. Immediately. The blood demons of the mysterious heaven ancient city fled outside the city. Do you think I'll give them a chance to retreat? Wu Baichuan smiled sinisterly and shouted, do it. Boom. Immediately. All the perfected ninth heaven's realm cultivators attacked at the same time, their divine power surging in all directions. In just a few breaths of time, a divine barrier appeared, sealing off the entire ancient city. Kill our way out. Countless blood demons roared and attacked the barrier with all their might. However, the strongest among them was merely a consummate paragon, so how could they possibly break through the barrier set up by a consummate Nine Heavens realm cultivator? Furthermore, this divine power barrier was set up by 500 to 600 perfect Ninth Heavens realm cultivators. The Cyclops' eyes also darkened. You didn't expect this, did you? The last time you sealed the ancient city, we were trapped like turtles in a jar. We were almost wiped out. But this time, we've turned the tables and made your blood demon race a turtle in a jar. Ha, you must be feeling very aggrieved right now. After all, this is your blood demon race's territory. Wu Baichuan laughed unscrupulously. You're courting death. The Cyclops stared at Wu Baichuan. You still dare to be arrogant? Wu Baichuan's face turned cold. He grabbed the air with his big hand, and a consummate paragon blood-eye giant flew in front of him uncontrollably. What do you want to do? The Cyclops shouted. What do I want to do? Wu Baichuan smiled sinisterly, took out the sky halberd, and slashed at the head of the blood-eye giant. Ah! Following a pained cry, the perfect stage transcendent blood-eye giant was instantly annihilated. Blood rained down, dyeing the sky red. You bastard! The Cyclops roared. Ha! Wu Baichuan laughed wildly and said, I like to see your angry but helpless expression. The tens of thousands of people behind Wu Baichuan also sneered. However, Qin Feiyang, who was standing next to the Cyclops, couldn't help but frown. To be honest, there was actually no hatred between the blood demon race and humans. The reason why the blood demon race hated humans was entirely because they were implicated by the dragons. The dragons continued to enter the Nether King's hell, snatching the heaven-defying artifact and provoking the dignity of the blood demon race. Of course, the blood demon race would hate them. And this time, the humans had followed the dragons to the Nether King's hell. The blood demon race would naturally think that the humans were the dragons' accomplices. Naturally, they would also hate the humans. In the end, all of this could have been avoided. The blood demon race was magnanimous and let the humans and dragons search for treasures in the Nether King's hell. The humans and dragons would also be more conscious and not disturb the life of the blood demon race. This way, wouldn't everyone be able to live in peace? Unfortunately, regardless of whether it was the dragon clan or the humans, their desires were endless. Even if the blood demon race was magnanimous and wanted to accept the humans and dragons would take the initiative to provoke the blood demon race. In other words, the battle between the blood demon race, the dragons, and the humans was unavoidable. Looking at the arrogant and despotic Wu Baichuan, the Cyclops clenched his fists. The other blood demons were also burning with anger. If I were you, I would obediently hand over the mysterious Sky Ancient City to prevent my clansmen from being hurt. Wu Baichuan chuckled. In your dreams. The Cyclops shouted. Ha! Wu Baichuan burst out laughing. He grabbed at the air again, summoning another blood-eyed giant in the peak 9 Heaven's supreme realm. I like stubborn people like you. Because conquering people like you gives me a greater sense of accomplishment. As his voice fell, the Sky Halberd attacked again. Roar, accompanied by a miserable howl, the blood-eyed giant also died under the Sky Halberd on the spot. Flesh and blood flew all over the sky. The bloody scene was too horrible to look at. City Lord, don't worry about us. Quickly kill him. Our blood demon race is the king of the Nether King's hell. How can we allow these human dwarves to blaspheme our dignity? The surrounding blood-eyed giants roared in grief and indignation. Ha! In this world, there is actually someone who dares to call himself a king in front of us humans? How laughable! Wu Baichuan laughed loudly. The Sky Halberd left his hand and crazily attacked the city below. With a loud bang, more than a dozen blood-eyed giants were immediately shattered. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. Enough! I'll give you the mysterious Sky Ancient City. The Cyclops shouted. City Lord, you can't. The other blood demons immediately shouted when they heard this. All of you, shut up. The Cyclops coldly snorted and looked at Wu Baichuan. I'll give it to you, but you have to promise to let my clansmen go. Ha, I thought you blood demons had more backbone. It turns out that this is all there is to it. Okay. I promise you. Once I get the mysterious Sky Ancient City, I'll leave immediately. Wu Baichuan laughed. The Cyclops shouted, all clansmen, leave the ancient city. City Lord, please reconsider. If you give the mysterious Sky Ancient City to these humans, you will face the punishment of the Ghost King. The surrounding blood demons cried out. I'll bear the punishment of the Ghost King alone. I won't implicate you. The Cyclops said. We're not afraid of implicating you. We're afraid of losing you. The blood demons roared. The Cyclops shouted, stop talking nonsense. Hurry up. Sigh. The blood demon sighed and soared into the sky. The Cyclops also flew into the sky. With a wave of his hand, the mysterious Sky Ancient City was immediately uprooted from the ground with a loud bang. Immediately after, under everyone's gaze, the mysterious Sky Ancient City shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than 3 breaths, the ancient city shrank to the size of a palm and floated in front of the Cyclops. This is considered half a space divine object. The group of people behind Wu Baichuan revealed greed in their eyes. Wu Baichuan himself was also extremely excited. He stretched out his hand and said, "Quickly erase the blood contract and give it to me." The Cyclops said in a deep voice, "Before I give it to you, swear to the heavens that you'll let my clansmen go." "Okay. I, Wu Baichuan, swear to the heavens that after obtaining the mysterious sky ancient city, I'll immediately leave this place and won't make things difficult for anyone from the blood demon race." Wu Baichuan raised his hand and shouted. "Sigh. You dare to believe a human's oath?" Qin Feiyang, who was hiding in the void, looked at the Cyclops' innocent appearance and couldn't help but shake his head. The thing that humans didn't trust the most was oaths. Unfortunately, the blood demons didn't understand humans. However, to him, this was undoubtedly an opportunity. Qin Feiyang took out a facial restoration pill and quickly stuffed it into his mouth. His appearance instantly changed. At the same time, after Wu Baichuan swore, the Cyclops also quickly erased the blood contract. With a wave of his hand, the mysterious sky ancient city turned into a stream of light and flew toward Wu Baichuan. Wu Baichuan was overjoyed and took the initiative to fly toward the mysterious sky ancient city, as if he was afraid that it would be snatched by others. Actually, the other great perfection Nine Heavens realm cultivators, such as the young woman and the others, were indeed eager to make a move. However, out of fear of Wu Baichuan, they didn't dare to make a move rashly. Seeing that the mysterious sky ancient city was about to be in his hands, Wu Baichuan couldn't help but laugh. However, he didn't know that Qin Feiyang had already arrived in front of the mysterious sky ancient city. However, just as Qin Feiyang raised his arm and was about to snatch the mysterious sky ancient city, his arm paused slightly and there was a trace of hesitation. His gaze swept across the divine power barrier around him. Because the barrier that sealed this place hadn't dissipated. Even if he snatched the mysterious sky ancient city, he might not be able to leave with it. Moreover, this divine power barrier was set up by 500 to 600 great perfection Nine Heavens realm cultivators. With his ability, he wouldn't be able to break it. Just as Qin Feiyang was hesitating, Wu Baichuan grabbed the mysterious sky ancient city. His eyes were filled with excitement as he laughed wildly. Qin Feiyang glanced at Wu Baichuan and didn't try to snatch it. He decisively retreated to the side of the divine power barrier and continued to wait for an opportunity. Because he knew that the real battle was about to begin. A vengeful person like Wu Baichuan definitely wouldn't let the blood demon tribe off so easily. The Cyclops looked at Wu Baichuan and said in a deep voice, "Quickly fulfill your promise." "Promise?" Wu Baichuan was slightly taken aback. He played with the mysterious sky ancient city and looked up at the Cyclops. He asked jokingly, "What promise?" "You." The Cyclops looked at Wu Baichuan in shock and anger. Didn't the dragons tell you that the most untrustworthy thing in this world is an oath?" Wu Baichuan raised his head and laughed. The young woman and the others also sneered. The Cyclops clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes flashed with a terrifying ferocious light. So scary. Unfortunately, it's not night time now. You blood demons can't transform. Today, I'll let you idiots see the means of us humans. Brothers, don't leave a single one alive. Kill. Wu Baichuan cackled. Chapter 2591. Boom. As Wu Baichuan finished speaking, the tens of thousands of people all attacked. Divine power roared in all directions, and divine weapons flew all over the sky. Kill. Under the lead of hundreds of Nine Heavens perfection cultivators, a group of people charged into the blood demon tribe like hungry wolves. One had to know. The weakest of these people was a half-step Nine Heavens perfection cultivator. The strongest of the blood demon tribe was only a supremacy perfection cultivator. How could they be a match for them? Even if the blood demon tribe could use the power of the evil sun to heal their injuries, it was useless. Because this was a complete massacre. That's a pinnacle divine weapon. Look, the sword in the giant's hand is actually a legendary divine weapon. This is too much. The Blood Demon tribe is just a supremacy god, but they have a pinnacle divine weapon and a legendary divine weapon. And it's harder for us 9 Heavens Perfection cultivators to get a legendary divine weapon. It's too unfair. Kill them. These divine weapons are all ours. At this moment, these tens of thousands of people vividly displayed the greed of humans. Killing and plundering. The cruel scene made one's hair stand on end. You all deserve to die. Seeing his tribesmen being killed one by one, the one-eyed giant suddenly roared, and a set of blood-red armor appeared on his body. A monstrous murderous aura suddenly erupted. That's a supremacy armor. A group of 9 Heavens Perfection cultivators saw the blood-red armor on the one-eyed giant's body, and their eyes lit up. That was greed. Immediately, the group of people used their strongest techniques and charged toward the one-eyed giant, all wanting to snatch the armor on his body. You're more despicable and insidious than the dragons. Even if I die today, I'll drag you damn dwarfs to hell with me. The one-eyed giant roared again and again. Accompanied by a loud clang, a blood-red axe appeared in his hand, and its sharp edge instantly tore through the surroundings. What? Another supremacy divine weapon. The group of people was shocked. How terrifying was the Blood Demon tribe's foundation? Clang! The one-eyed giant was enraged. He grabbed the blood-red giant axe and swung it forward furiously. Boom! That was a crushing force. The deity incantations created by a group of perfected 9 Heavens realm cultivators were instantly annihilated. Poof! Their bodies and minds trembled as blood gushed out of their mouths. How terrifying! Even though they were both at the great perfection 9 Heavens realm like the Cyclops, they couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Move aside, I'll do it. Go and kill the rest of the blood demons. Wu Baichuan waved his halberd and charged towards the Cyclops. When the young woman and the others saw this, they once again charged towards the other blood demons. Humans, you heartless bastards, I curse you to die a horrible death. The heavens will not let you off. Lord Ghost King will not let you off either. Just you wait to go to hell. Screams and roars of rage rang out incessantly, echoing within the barrier. You've already obtained the mysterious Heaven Ancient City. Why are you still doing this? This is also a living being. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself as he stood beside the barrier and watched this scene. He was also a member of the human race, but he was increasingly disgusted with them. Greedy, selfish, wild ambition, unscrupulous in order to achieve their goals, it could be said that humans were almost cold-blooded creatures. Wu Baichuan stared at the Cyclops and sneered. I have to settle the score with you for the previous time. The halberd was fully recovered, bringing with it an apocalyptic sharpness as it slashed towards the Cyclops' head. However, the Cyclops did not meet the attack head-on. Whoosh! That huge body soared into the sky, the gigantic axe in his hand emitted a monstrous blood-red glow as he slashed at the barrier with all his might. Bang! The barrier suddenly distorted. Shatter! The Cyclops roared, holding the gigantic axe with both hands, and slashed again. Crack! Immediately, a crack appeared in the barrier. At this moment, Wu Baichuan charged forward with the halberd in his hand. However, the Cyclops did not care at all and slashed at the barrier again. After 3 ferocious bombardments, the enchantment finally collapsed. Clang! At the same time, the halberd struck the Cyclops' body, creating dazzling sparks as it collided with the blood-red armor. Bang! Although the Cyclops was protected by the armor and his body was not injured, his huge body was sent flying on the spot and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Run! However, the Cyclops ignored his injuries and roared at the blood demons who were still alive. City Lord, hang in there. We'll go find our clansmen and rush back to support you. The blood demons didn't hesitate either. They immediately fled in all directions at top speed. Do you think you can escape? A group of Peak 9 Heavens cultivators sneered and chased after them. The blood demons fell one by one. The void was dyed red with blood. The ground was also littered with corpses. Blood gathered together and flowed like a river. Damn it, damn it. The Cyclops bared his teeth and charged at a burly man with the blood-red axe. That burly man was also a peak 9 heavens cultivator. However, when he saw the Cyclops charging at him, he immediately used an auxiliary technique and fled without looking back. Go to hell. The Cyclops roared and divine light surged under his feet. His speed also skyrocketed as he chopped down with the axe. The burly man screamed and his blood splattered in the sky. Do you think I don't exist? Wu Baichuan was enraged. He charged forward like a bolt of lightning, his Fengtian halberd once again striking the back of the Cyclops. Puff! The Cyclops spat out a mouthful of blood. He turned and stared at Wu Baichuan. Okay, I'll kill you first. A violent aura erupted like a volcano. The two of them immediately fought crazily in the void. Wu Baichuan was at a disadvantage for a moment. Every time the one-eyed giant attacked, it was stronger than him. Qin Feiyang. He had already left the moment the barrier collapsed. At this moment, he stood on a mountain peak in the distance and looked at the battlefield from afar. A wave of sympathy rose in his heart. What did the blood demons do wrong? They were only protecting their homeland and their dignity. All of this was the fault of the dragons. If there were no dragons, there would be no invaders in hell. Naturally, there wouldn't be such a massacre. The blood demons would have been able to live here peacefully. It was the dragons and the humans who broke the peace of the blood demons. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed. He turned around and used the heavenly dragon's 9 steps. Like a stream of light, he disappeared into the depths of the mountain. Half an hour later. In a certain mountain, more than a dozen blood-eyed giants were chasing after a few humans. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang broke through the air. The time for the concealment technique was up. Therefore, whether it was the blood-eyed giants or the humans, they all discovered Qin Feiyang immediately. It's Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang, save us. The humans immediately called for help from Qin Feiyang. There are actually humans who dare to show themselves. Die. However, the blood-eyed giants were filled with killing intent. One of the blood-eyed giants even charged toward Qin Feiyang. The mysterious sky ancient city is facing a massacre. Hurry up and inform your people to go back and help. Qin Feiyang said lightly. What? The blood-eyed giants were shocked. Believe me, I'm not lying to you. If you don't go back, your people will be gone. Qin Feiyang said. One of the blood-eyed giants frowned and said, Why did you inform us? Pity. Qin Feiyang muttered. He turned around and left without looking back. I don't believe it. This must be his trick. I'll go and kill him. An extremely tall and sturdy blood-eyed giant shouted angrily and charged towards Qin Feiyang. Actually, there are humans who are trustworthy. Qin Feiyang said without turning his head. Then, he disappeared into the void. That's right. The concealment technique. Now that the concealment technique could be used twice a day, it wouldn't be that easy for the blood-eyed giants to kill him. News? How did he do it? The blood-eyed giants were shocked. Don't worry about him for now. This person doesn't seem to be lying to us. Hurry up and kill these people and go back to the mysterious sky ancient city. One of them yelled. The blood-eyed giants attacked with all their strength. After killing the humans, they rushed toward the mysterious sky ancient city. In a certain valley, there was also a massacre going on. More than a dozen humans were fighting a blood-eyed giant. Although the dozen or so humans were at the perfect 9 heavens realm, the blood-eyed giant was at the perfect 9 heavens realm. That's right. This blood-eyed giant was one of the 20 blood-eyed giants. The mysterious sky ancient city is in danger. The city lord is in danger. Hurry up and find your people. Go back and help. Suddenly, A voice sounded in the blood-eyed giant's mind. The blood-eyed giant was slightly taken aback. He immediately looked around in surprise. Trust me. If you don't go back and help, the city lord will die. The voice sounded again. The blood-eyed giant withdrew his gaze, took out a supreme-grade divine artifact, and instantly killed the humans. He roared, "Nearby clansmen, listen up. Return to the mysterious sky ancient city immediately." His voice was loud and resounded through the clouds. The blood demons within a few million miles all had a trace of surprise in their eyes when they heard this voice. However, they didn't hesitate and immediately returned to the mysterious sky ancient city. At first, these blood demons didn't really believe it. However, as they got closer and closer to the mysterious sky ancient city and gradually sensed the ripples of battle, their expressions darkened. Outside the city, in the sky above a forest, the blood-eyed giant at the perfect ninth heaven realm stared in the direction of the mysterious sky ancient city. Hundreds of clansmen had gathered behind him. "Go find the other clansmen immediately," the blood-eyed giant at the perfect ninth heaven realm shouted. Yes. The hundreds of blood demons immediately spread out and roared, "The humans have invaded the mysterious sky ancient city. The city lord is in danger. All clansmen, go back and help." Every voice was like thunder that spread in all directions. What? The mysterious sky ancient city is in danger? These damned humans, let's go. All the blood demons who heard this immediately rushed back to the mysterious sky ancient city at full speed. Every one of them was filled with murderous intent. Chapter 2592. At this moment, Qin Feiyang had also returned to the mysterious sky ancient city. But he did not appear on the battlefield. He hid on a mountain peak and concealed his aura, watching the battlefield from afar. The second activation of the concealment technique had reached its time limit. In other words, about 2 hours had passed since the start of the battle. In the end, none of the blood demons in the mysterious sky ancient city managed to escape. They all died at the hands of the young woman and the others. On the human side, except for the burly man who was killed by the one-eyed giant, there were no casualties. After the massacre, the young woman and the others did not participate in the battle between the one-eyed giant and Wu Baichuan. However, tens of thousands of people gathered in the void and surrounded the one-eyed giant, not giving him any chance to escape. In the middle, the one-eyed giant and Wu Baichuan were also locked in battle. After about 2 hours of fierce battle, the one-eyed giant's blood-red armor was already full of holes and was on the verge of collapse. But in comparison, Wu Baichuan's injuries were more serious. His body was dripping with blood. The wounds were so deep that bones could be seen. In terms of strength, Wu Baichuan was indeed a lot weaker than the one-eyed giant. Strange. Looking at Wu Baichuan on the battlefield, Qin Feiyang gradually frowned. One had to know. Wu Baichuan only had the Sky Piercer, which was a supreme divine weapon. But the one-eyed giant had 2 supreme divine weapons, the armor and the giant axe. If it were any other peak 9 heavens realm, even if they also had a supreme divine weapon like the Sky Piercer, they would probably have died under the one-eyed giant's axe. But Wu Baichuan could not only hold on until now, but even the armor on the one-eyed giant's body was about to be destroyed. It was even possible. Once the blood-red armor was completely destroyed, the one-eyed giant would lose the protection of the armor and Wu Baichuan could still turn the tables. This did not make sense. Moreover, the one-eyed giant's body and strength were also far superior to Wu Baichuan's. Logically speaking, Wu Baichuan should have been defeated long ago. How did he do it? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang noticed that there was an additional pattern between Wu Baichuan's eyebrows. This pattern was in the shape of an armor, and it emitted strands of divine light. What is that? Qin Feiyang muttered. He had been with Wu Baichuan for a few days, but he had never seen that mysterious pattern. Rumble. Crack. The battle between the two became more and more intense. The tens of thousands of people around were also shocked to see Wu Baichuan become more and more courageous as he fought. Why do I feel that this Wu Baichuan is like an unkillable cockroach? Cockroach? Brat, are you courting death? How dare you compare him to Xiao Chang? Do you know what the consequences will be if he hears this? Isn't that just a metaphor? Not even a metaphor. Yes, yes, yes. I'll be more careful next time. But it's true that he can't be killed. Look, his injuries are so serious, but he's getting more and more powerful. He doesn't seem to be weakened at all. Several people standing at the back of the crowd discussed in low voices. You don't understand. There's a reason why Wu Shixiang can hold on until now. Suddenly, a disciple of the Dragon God Palace turned his head to look at those people and asked, "What's the reason?" Several people looked at him curiously. Wu Shixiang has activated a type of battle soul. This battle soul has a very terrifying talent that can weaken the opponent's attack by half. That disciple of the Dragon God Palace said. What? It can weaken half of the opponent's attack? Brother, you're not fooling us, are you? Several people were shocked. Why would I fool you? Wu Shixiang and I are both disciples of the Eastern Dragon God Palace. I'm sure I know his means better than you. Do you see the pattern between his eyebrows? That's the sign of activating a talent. That disciple of the Dragon God Palace said. I see. So even though it seems like he's taking all of the one-eyed giant's attack, it's actually only half of it. Several people said. That's right. Wu Shixiang's means aren't limited to just this. As long as the armor on the one-eyed giant is broken, he'll only be tortured by Wu Shixiang. The disciple of the Dragon God Palace looked at Wu Baichuan with admiration and shouted, Wu Shixiang, you can definitely kill him. Of course. I, Wu Baichuan, live up to my name. Wu Baichuan smiled proudly. Clang! The halberd suddenly flew out of his hand and collided with the axe in the one-eyed giant's hand, causing sparks to fly. At the same time, Wu Baichuan waved his hand and the mysterious sky ancient city appeared. It instantly became a few hundred feet tall and crashed into the one-eyed giant like a mountain. With a loud crack, the blood-red armor on the Cyclops' body finally reached its limit and shattered into pieces. Poof! The one-eyed giant was also sent flying and smashed into the ground below. Blood gushed out of his mouth. Is the mysterious sky ancient city that strong? Are you kidding? The mysterious sky ancient city is a supreme-grade divine artifact. How can it not be strong? Wu Baichuan also knows how to seize the opportunity. He only used the mysterious sky ancient city when the armor reached its limit. Not only did it completely shatter the armor, but it also dealt a fatal blow to the one-eyed giant. Everyone was full of admiration. But in their hearts, their desire for the mysterious sky ancient city was even stronger. Who wouldn't want such a supreme-grade divine artifact? But at the same time, they were more and more wary of Wu Baichuan. Wu Baichuan with the sky piercer was already very terrifying. Now that he had the mysterious sky ancient city, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. Although there were more than 10,000 people present, no one was confident that they could defeat Wu Baichuan. So what if your physical body is strong? Aren't you still an ant? Wu Baichuan looked down at the one-eyed giant with disdain. The sky piercer and the mysterious sky ancient city, these two supreme-grade divine artifacts, floated around him, exuding a destructive aura. The one-eyed giant got up and roared at the sky. The evil sun immediately released a beam of blood-red light. In just a few seconds, the one-eyed giant's injuries were healed. It's healed just like that. This is too unreasonable. Everyone looked at the one-eyed giant in astonishment, feeling extremely unbalanced. Why was this blood demon able to obtain the mercy of the evil sun? Your strength is indeed not simple. But you're daydreaming if you want to kill me. I have plenty of time to waste with you. When night falls, it will be your doomsday. The one-eyed giant smiled malevolently. He put away the blood-red armor fragment and charged at Wu Baichuan with his blood-red axe. Wu Baichuan couldn't help but frown. If it really dragged on until night time, it would be difficult to deal with. The blood demon at night was too terrifying. It seemed that he couldn't continue to act tough. He had to end this quickly. Everyone, attack with me and kill him. With that thought, Wu Baichuan roared without turning his head. Everyone was stunned. He actually asked them to help. But it made sense. The blood demon could borrow the power of the evil sun. If they couldn't kill the one-eyed giant, they could quickly recover no matter how serious their injuries were. This way, the blood demon could really drag on until night time. The blood demon would only show its true fangs at night. Let's attack and end this quickly. The young woman and the others shouted. Everyone nodded. Boom! Waves of divine power surged out. Countless divine arts appeared in the sky. There were perfect divine arts. There were peak-grade divine arts. There were also legendary divine arts. The void here was suddenly filled with an aura that could destroy the heavens and earth. At the same time, Wu Baichuan also activated the Sky Halberd and the mysterious Sky Ancient City. The aura of these two supreme-grade divine arts was even more terrifying. The void within tens of thousands of miles started to crack and collapse at this moment. The earth also shook violently and kept sinking. Abyssal cracks appeared and extended toward the end of the world. It was like the end of the world. The beasts hiding in the depths of the area all fled in panic. Qin Feiyang was also retreating. Tens of thousands of people attacked together, and the weakest of them was at the half-step ninth heaven realm. They also had two supreme-grade divine artifacts. If they didn't retreat quickly, they would definitely be affected. Die! Wu Baichuan smiled coldly. As he waved his hand, the two supreme-grade divine artifacts immediately charged toward the one-eyed giant. As soon as Wu Baichuan attacked, the others also waved their hands. Countless divine arts streaked across the sky and blasted toward the one-eyed giant. I'm immortal. The one-eyed giant roared. He didn't intend to dodge at all. He raised the giant axe in his hand and charged forward. Boom! The two collided. The moment the blood-colored giant axe collided with the Sky Halberd, the two supreme-grade divine artifacts, it directly flew out of the one-eyed giant's hand and shattered into pieces. Then, countless divine arts instantly drowned the one-eyed giant. Roar! Even the one-eyed giant's physical body couldn't withstand the attack of so many divine arts. Especially when there were 500 to 600 perfection ninth heaven realm cultivators among them. The one-eyed giant's physical body kept shattering, and blood splattered across the sky. He kept roaring. On one hand, it was because of the pain. On the other hand, it was because he was summoning the power of the evil sun whoosh. The evil sun in the sky sent down beams of blood-colored light to repair his physical body. However, even though the evil sun's healing ability was heaven-defying, it couldn't heal the one-eyed giant's injuries. Because there were too many divine arts. The destructive power was too terrifying. Even the evil sun's power couldn't repair it in time. Again, Wu Baichuan roared. The tens of thousands of people cast divine arts again. This time, the one-eyed giant was definitely going to die. Even the evil sun was useless. I can't accept this. Why did I believe these despicable humans? Not only did I give the mysterious Sky Ancient City to them, but I also killed my people. It's all my fault. You damned beasts, I'll take you down with me. The one-eyed giant roared angrily. A destructive aura suddenly rushed out of his body. What? He's going to self-destruct. Wu Baichuan and the others' expressions changed. A perfection ninth heaven realm cultivator self-destructing? This was no joke. It was enough to kill all of them in an instant. City Lord, don't self-destruct. Hang in there, we're back. Suddenly, a roar of anger rolled over. The The one-eyed giant froze, then a trace of ecstasy appeared on his face. He quickly stopped self-destructing and summoned the power of the evil sun to resist the destructive power of the countless divine arts. Damn it! Why did they come back? Wu Baichuan and the others were both shocked and furious. You damned humans, go to hell! The angry roar sounded again. The owner of this voice was the blood-eyed giant at the Perfection Ninth Heaven realm who had rushed back first. Before he arrived, the supreme-grade divine artifact had already arrived. A terrifying power swept out in all directions. In the blink of an eye, several hundred people were smashed into pieces by the utmost exalted level god weapon. Not even their bones remained. Chapter 2593. Wu Shixiang. The young woman and the others panicked. Retreat! Wu Baichuan ordered decisively. The fact that a blood-eyed giant had returned meant that this matter had been exposed. The other blood-eyed demons must be on their way back as well. However, he didn't understand why the blood-eyed demons had received the news so quickly. Everyone, retreat! The young woman and the others immediately yelled. Everyone immediately turned around and dashed into the mountains. Don't even think about leaving today. The blood-eyed giant at the Great Perfection Nine Heavens realm was like a demon god as he flew through the air with a powerful aura. The supreme-grade divine weapon was so sharp that several hundred people died on the spot. Wu Baichuan and the others didn't even look back as they fled. Damn humans! However, another blood-eyed giant at the Great Perfection Nine Heavens realm appeared in the sky. Behind him was a group of blood-eyed giants at the half-step to the Great Perfection Nine Heavens realm. There were several hundred of them. How dare they hurt the city lord and kill our people? Brothers, kill them all. Every blood-eyed giant looked at the mysterious heaven ancient city that had disappeared and the blood-eyed demon corpses on the ground. They were filled with grief and anger. Clang! The blood-eyed giant at the Great Perfection Nine Heavens realm took out his supreme-grade divine weapon and charged at Wu Baichuan and the others who were at the front. Scram! Wu Baichuan yelled. The mysterious heaven ancient city and the sky piercer attacked. With a loud boom, the supreme-grade divine weapon of the blood-eyed giant was sent flying. The blood-eyed giant spat out a mouthful of blood. However, at the same time, the blood-eyed giant at the Great Perfection Nine Heavens realm charged from behind. The supreme-grade divine weapon instantly killed a large number of people. Kill! The blood-eyed giants at the half-step to the Great Perfection Nine Heavens realm all took out their peak-grade divine weapons and legendary divine weapons and charged into the crowd. A chaotic battle started. The humans could only be slaughtered by the blood demons at the Great Perfection Nine Heavens realm. Only Wu Baichuan and a group of Peak Nine Heavens realm cultivators could compete with them. Wu Baichuan stared at the two Ninth Heaven realm blood-eyed giants, and said solemnly, "To catch bandits, first catch the leader, kill them first." All right. The young woman and the others nodded. Immediately, the group of Nine Heavens realm cultivators split into two groups and charged towards the two blood-eyed giants. Facing 500 to 600 Perfection Nine Heavens realm cultivators, the two blood-eyed giants immediately fell into danger. In an instant, his arms and legs were broken, and he was drenched in blood. Kill! Suddenly, with a furious roar, another two blood-eyed giants at the Great Perfection of the Nine Heavens realm hurried over with over 1,000 blood-eyed demons. They immediately joined the battlefield. The two blood-eyed giants at the Great Perfection stage of the Nine Heavens realm did not care about the others. They took out their supreme-grade divine artifacts and went straight for Wu Baichuan. Wu Baichuan also fell into a bitter battle. Because now, he was facing 3 supreme-grade divine artifacts alone. The battle was becoming more and more chaotic. There were corpses and broken limbs everywhere. There were humans and blood-eyed demons. The entire world was shrouded in killing. At the same time, the one-eyed giant used the power of the evil sun to withstand the attacks of countless divine arts. However, he had also paid a great price for it. His physical body was almost shattered, and his divine soul was almost annihilated. But he did not care. Because the power of the evil sun could help him repair his physical body and divine soul. He stood high in the sky and looked down at the battlefield, his eyes filled with intense killing intent. About 100 breaths later, his physical body and divine soul were finally repaired. His physical body and divine soul were repaired in 100 breaths of time. Although this speed was not as fast as the evil moon at night, it was still terrifying. Human, prepare to face my wrath. The one-eyed giant roared and charged towards the battlefield with a murderous aura. He was like a violent ape, grabbing a person at the peak of the 9 heavens realm and pulling with both hands. That person was torn to pieces on the spot. Although the blood-red axe and armor were broken, his own strength was enough to crush all the humans at the peak 9 heavens realm. City Lord, we're back. Clansmen, kill them. Leave no one alive. The blood-eyed demons who had gone out rushed back one after another to join the battle. Especially those blood-eyed giants at the peak 9 heavens realm. They had supreme-level auxiliary divine arts and supreme-level divine artifacts. They could kill anything in their way. On the human side, other than Wu Baichuan, no one else had supreme-level divine artifacts and divine arts. They were naturally no match for such ferocious and powerful blood-eyed demons. Even Wu Baichuan, who had 2 supreme-level divine artifacts, could not stop the blood-eyed giants. As all the blood-eyed demons rushed back, the situation immediately reversed. Before, it was Wu Baichuan and the others who were slaughtering the blood-eyed demons. Now, it was the blood-eyed demons who were crazily slaughtering Wu Baichuan and the others. There were more than 10,000 people, but now, there were less than 100 left. Although the blood-eyed demons also suffered casualties, it was not worth mentioning compared to the human casualties. Wu Shixiang, what should we do? The remaining 100 or so people stood back to back and looked at the blood-eyed demons around them with despair. Actually, some of them were missing arms or legs. Even Wu Baichuan had lost an arm. This was fatal for humans. Because humans could not summon the power of the evil sun like the blood-eyed demons. Even if it was a divine-level divine pill of life, it would still take some time to recover. But now, it was not a situation where healing could defy the heavens. Because none of the 20 blood-eyed giants at the peak 9 heavens realm had died. There was still the one-eyed giant who was even more terrifying than them. Also, the other blood-eyed demons were at the half 9 heavens realm. There were more than 20,000 of them. The most important thing was, they had all recovered with the help of the evil sun and were now in peak condition. I've already given you the mysterious sky ancient city. Why are you still killing my people? Are promises and oaths so worthless in the eyes of you humans? The one-eyed giant clenched his fists and glared at the group. The group was extremely panicked. We blood-eyed demons are the most honest and believe in promises and oaths the most. We even value oaths more than our lives. Because in our eyes, an oath is a form of dignity. But you humans can't even keep the most basic integrity. You don't deserve to be human. The one-eyed giant shouted. The 20 blood-eyed giants immediately activated their supreme-level divine artifacts and charged toward the group. Don't move, or we'll self-destruct and die with you. And if we self-destruct, the mysterious sky ancient city will also be destroyed. Wu Baichuan panicked and shouted. The 20 blood-eyed giants frowned. Seeing this, Wu Baichuan immediately became confident and said, I can return the mysterious sky ancient city to you, but you have to let us go. Do you think it's possible to kill tens of thousands of my people? The one-eyed giant said with a hideous smile. But you also killed tens of thousands of our people. Wu Baichuan said in a deep voice. That's because you deserve to die. The Nether King's hell was originally a pure land, but because of the arrival of the dragons and you humans, now it's all about killing. Can't you just stay outside and live a good life? Why do you have to come to our Nether King's hell? The one-eyed giant roared with deep disgust in his eyes. Wu Baichuan and the others were speechless. Return the mysterious sky ancient city to me, and I promise you that I'll leave your corpses intact. We blood-eyed demons are the most honest. We will definitely do what we say. The one-eyed giant said. What's the use of leaving your corpses intact when you're already dead? Wu Baichuan sneered. The one-eyed giant said, so, you want to resist to the end? Try it. You have time, and we also have a lot of time to waste. Wu Baichuan sneered. A lot of time. The one-eyed giant immediately laughed. The other blood-eyed demons also sneered. What are you laughing at? Wu Baichuan and the others raised their eyebrows. Don't you know that outsiders like you can only stay in the Nether King's hell for 1,000 years? The one-eyed giant said. What? We can only stay for 1,000 years? The group of people was shocked. It seems that you really don't know. That's not right. If the dragons knew about this, why didn't they tell you? Are you also enemies with the dragons? The one-eyed giant looked at the group curiously. Wu Baichuan said in a deep voice, tell me clearly, why can you only stay for 1,000 years? Because this is the rule of the Nether King's hell. If you haven't left the Nether King's hell after 1,000 years, the evil power of the evil moon will descend and crush you. And there is only one exit in the Nether King's hell. This exit is in the mythical square, located in the mythical forest at the end of the west. With your speed, even if you can reach the mythical square unimpeded, it will take you 100 years. Now, do you still think you have time to waste with us? The one-eyed giant laughed, his face full of ridicule. Damn it! Why didn't the dragons tell us such an important thing? The young woman and the others were not dead. At this moment, when they heard the one-eyed giant's words, their faces were filled with anger. The dragons, they're trying to kill us. Someone sighed. And Qin Feiyang was also lurking nearby and heard the one-eyed giant's words. It couldn't be helped. These blood demons' voices were too loud. It was difficult not to hear them. Hearing this, he was also quite shocked. He didn't expect the dragons to be hiding such a secret. If they hadn't heard it from the one-eyed giant, they probably wouldn't have known what was going on until they died. The heart of the dragon race was truly murderous. Because just this point alone was enough to kill everyone. Wu Baichuan's face was also extremely gloomy. He looked at the one-eyed giant and said, so what if what you said is true? Anyway, you won't let us go. We might as well slowly waste time. This time, there were many people entering the Nether King's hell. As long as they wasted time, they might be able to wait for reinforcements and find a chance to escape. Okay. If you want to waste time, we will waste time with you. The one-eyed giant smiled sinisterly and shouted, everyone, retreat. Swish. Of course. A group of blood demons retreated like lightning and stood at a safe distance, surrounding Wu Baichuan and the others. Chapter 2594. Wu Shixiang, are we really going to drag this out? The young woman and the others looked at the blood demons in the distance and were very anxious. What else? Do you have any good ideas? Wu Baichuan said angrily. They shook their heads. Then shut up. Wu Baichuan glared fiercely at them, pondering a question in his heart. These 9 heavens realm blood demons had clearly left, but why did they all come back? Could it be that the battle had alarmed them? But that was impossible. All these years, he had been monitoring the blood demons' every move. He waited until the blood demons left and were far away from the mysterious heaven ancient city, so they couldn't sense the battle here. Could someone have tipped them off? That couldn't be right. How could humans help the blood demons? Was it the nearby beasts? Wu Baichuan's mind was in a mess. On the other side. My lord, you don't have to blame yourself. Yes, you handed over the mysterious heaven ancient city to protect your people. You can only blame these humans for being too despicable. They didn't even keep their oath. If Lord Dark King wants to pursue this matter, we'll help you explain. The 20 blood-eyed giants at the Great Perfection 9th Heaven's realm surrounded the Cyclops and consoled him. Sigh. The Cyclops sighed and asked, why did you come back so quickly? One of the blood-eyed giants glanced at Wu Baichuan and the others and said through voice transmission, "A human secretly informed us." "What? A human?" The Cyclops paused. "Yes. I didn't believe it at first, but then a dozen people told me that they saw a human appear with their own eyes and told them about the situation in the mysterious Heaven Ancient City." The blood-eyed giant thought. "Strange. Why would a human help us?" The Cyclops was puzzled. "I don't know. I only heard his voice at that time, but I didn't see his body. Why don't I bring those clansmen here, and you can ask them yourself?" The blood-eyed giant asked. "Okay." The Cyclops nodded. The blood-eyed giant immediately looked up and scanned the surrounding blood demons. Suddenly, he looked at a Nine Heavens Realm blood-eyed giant and waved his hand. "Come here." The giant hurriedly ran over. The Cyclops asked, "Did you see that human with your own eyes?" "What human?" The blood-eyed giant was puzzled. The one-eyed giant replied, "The one who gave you the information, yes, yes, yes. At that time, we were chasing after a few humans, and that person suddenly appeared. At first, we thought that he was their accomplice. But I didn't expect him to tell us that the ancient city is in trouble and ask us to rush back to help." The crimson-eyed giant said. "Did the humans really help us?" The Cyclops was stunned. At that time, the people we were chasing seemed to know this person. "What's his name?" The blood-eyed giant pondered. "Speak softly." The one-eyed giant glanced at Wu Baichuan's group and thought to himself. The blood-eyed giant nodded and said, "I remember now. Those humans called him Qin Feiyang." "Qin Feiyang?" The Cyclops frowned. "And from the looks of it, this Qin Feiyang has a high status in the human world. Because when the people we were chasing saw this Qin Feiyang, it was as if they saw their savior. But strangely, this Qin Feiyang didn't save them. After notifying us, he disappeared." The blood-eyed giant said. "Disappeared?" The Cyclops was stunned. The 20 blood-eyed giants at the peak of the 9th Heaven's realm were also shocked. "Yes. He disappeared into thin air. As if he had disappeared from the world. At first, we wanted to kill him, but we couldn't find him at all. Not even his aura." The blood-eyed giant nodded. "So strange." The Cyclops and the 20 blood-eyed giants at the peak of the 9th Heaven's realm looked at each other. Later, we returned to the mysterious Heaven Ancient City, and as he said, the humans were killing our people. The blood-eyed giant said. "What does this Qin Feiyang mean? As a human, why did he help us instead of his companions?" The 20 blood-eyed giants at the peak of the 9th Heaven's realm couldn't help but frown. The blood-eyed demons always repay favors. No matter what his intentions are, it's an indisputable fact that he helped us. If you see him again, be polite to him. It's best if you can invite him to the blood-eyed demons. I want to thank him in person and ask him why." The Cyclops said. "Yes." The 20 blood-eyed giants at the peak of the 9th Heaven's realm nodded respectfully. "Pay attention to integrity and keep promises, back to Qin Feiyang." At this moment, he looked at the blood-eyed demons and couldn't help but smile. Although he didn't hear what the Cyclops said about being grateful, he had heard every single word of the conversation with Wu Baichuan at the beginning. He believed in promises and oaths, paid attention to integrity. He even valued oaths more than his life. An oath is a form of dignity. Every word he said made people look at him differently. To be honest, the blood-eyed demons were really good people. Because in the human world, integrity and promises were the cheapest things. This also proved that he didn't make the wrong decision. The blood-eyed demons were worth helping. Time passed quietly. Night fell and the evil moon rose. At this moment, Wu Baichuan and the others had recovered from their injuries. But because of the arrival of night, they were even more nervous and vigilant. Because the blood-eyed demons at night were powerful enough to make people despair. However, the blood-eyed demons didn't seem to have any intention of attacking. They really wanted to waste time with them. In the blink of an eye. It was already early in the morning. After midnight, Qin Feiyang could activate the concealment technique again. A blood-eyed giant at the peak of the ninth heaven's realm looked up at the evil moon and whispered, "Lord, why don't we attack?" "Don't. If they really self-destruct, our clansmen will be implicated." The Cyclops waved his hand. For the blood-eyed demons, 1,000 years was just a blink of an eye. As long as he could ensure the safety of his clansmen, he didn't care how long it took. To be honest, it's not a good idea for you to continue wasting time like this. Suddenly, a voice was transmitted into the minds of the Cyclops and the 20 blood-eyed giants at the peak of the ninth heaven's realm. The Cyclops was startled. "Lord, it's him. This voice, it's that human, Qin Feiyang." One of the blood-eyed giants at the peak of the ninth heaven's realm was startled and hurriedly transmitted his voice. "What?" The Cyclops immediately scanned the surroundings, but he didn't see any human at all. "Stop looking, you can't see me." Qin Feiyang was standing next to the Cyclops at this moment. "Why are you helping us?" The Cyclops asked in a low voice. "At first, it was just out of sympathy. But then I found out that the blood-eyed demons aren't as scary as I thought. Furthermore, I admire your characters. How about it? Can we be friends?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Be friends?" The Cyclops was dazed. One of the blood-eyed giants at the peak of the ninth heaven's realm said in a low voice, "Just tell us what you want. Don't beat around the bush." "I admit that I wanted to rob the mysterious heaven ancient city at first. But now, I've changed my mind. I think being friends with you is the wisest choice. After all, the blood-eyed demons are the overlords of the Nether King Hell. There's no benefit in being enemies with you." Qin Feiyang said faintly. "You're pretty smart." The blood-eyed giant sneered. "A wise man submits to circumstances." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "So, you don't really want to be friends with us. You're just afraid of us and want to survive in the Nether King Hell, so you're willing to compromise?" The Cyclops said with a frown. "I can't deny that. But I, Qin Feiyang, don't make friends with people casually. First of all, I like your character. If your character isn't good, even if you're the Lord of Heaven and Earth, I won't care. So, I'm sincere in being friends with you. Of course. Now, you definitely won't believe the words of a human. Let's let time prove it. After all, I'm only a greater success paragon god. I'm no threat to you. If you find out that I have ulterior motives, you can just kill me." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The Cyclops and the blood-eyed giants looked at each other in silence for a long time. Every race in the world has good and bad. It's the same for humans. Simply put, we humans aren't all bad. Why can't you give me a chance and give yourselves a chance to get to know each other?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The Cyclops said, "So, you're saying that you're a good person among humans?" "No. I'm not a good person. In fact, I'm even more ruthless than Wu Baichuan and the others. But I'm only ruthless toward my enemies." Qin Feiyang said. "You're quite straightforward." The Cyclops said. "Isn't it good to be straightforward?" Qin Feiyang asked. The Cyclops was silent. Qin Feiyang waited for a while and asked, "How about it? Try to get along." The Cyclops didn't answer directly. "Just now, you said that it's not a good idea to waste time with them." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang said, "Do you know how many humans have entered the Nether King's Hell this time?" The Cyclops shook his head. "Actually, I don't know either because I'm the first one to come here. But I estimate that there are at least tens of millions. And many of them are at the peak 9 heavens stage. There's even an imperishable stage expert hiding among them. If we keep wasting time, won't something happen if someone comes here? The mysterious sky ancient city should be very important to you. Are you willing to let Wu Baichuan take it away?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. So many people. The Cyclops was dumbfounded. That's right. And that's not counting the dragons. Qin Feiyang said. Then tell me, how can we take back the mysterious sky ancient city from them? The Cyclops asked in a low voice. For me, it's a very simple matter as long as you cooperate with me. Qin Feiyang said. Chapter 2595. Simple. The Cyclops was slightly taken aback. He pondered for a moment and asked, how? Have Wu Baichuan take out the mysterious heaven ancient city? Qin Feiyang said. The mysterious sky ancient city had been absorbed into Wu Baichuan's body. Therefore, the first step in seizing the mysterious sky ancient city was to get Wu Baichuan to take it out of his body. Take out the mysterious heaven ancient city. The Cyclops glanced at Wu Baichuan and said in a low voice, if we do it too deliberately, he'll be suspicious. That's right. I've been with Wu Baichuan for a few days, and he's a very alert person. So we can't be too deliberate. Also, the mysterious heaven ancient city has already recognized him as its master. Even if I get it, it'll be hard for me to come back because he can revive the mysterious heaven ancient city. So one of your clansmen at the peak of the Nine Heavens realm has to come with me. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Come with you? What if you're in cahoots with them? Wouldn't we be walking into a trap if we go with you? A blood-eyed giant at the peak of the Nine Heavens realm said with a frown. If I'm in cahoots with them, why would I hide in the dark and help you? Qin Feiyang said. The blood-eyed giant was speechless for a moment. He snorted and said, then who knows what you're planning? Since you're suspicious, why don't you use this chance to prove it and see if I'm harboring evil intentions? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Okay. I'll go with you. The blood-eyed giant nodded. Okay. Retreat to the back. I'll make you invisible. Qin Feiyang said. The blood-eyed giant immediately retreated to the back and avoided the sight of Wu Baichuan and the others. Qin Feiyang grabbed the blood-eyed giant's arm, and the giant disappeared. So magical. The Cyclops' eyes lit up. I disappeared just like that. The blood-eyed giant was shocked by the reaction of the Cyclops and his clansmen. That's right. You're invisible. No one can see you. Qin Feiyang smiled. The blood-eyed giant shuddered and hurriedly turned to look at Qin Feiyang. He couldn't help but frown when he saw Qin Feiyang's friendly expression. Old Ten, are you there? The Cyclops glanced at the space where the blood-eyed giant had disappeared and asked in a low voice. Sir, I'm here. The blood-eyed giant hurriedly replied. It's good that you are here. The Cyclops sighed in relief. He can really turn invisible. What kind of divine art is this? There are countless god techniques in hell, but I have never seen such a mystical god technique. The other 19 blood-eyed giants at the peak of the Nine Heavens realm couldn't help but mutter. Qin Feiyang gazed at the blood-eyed giant and said, once we take the ancient city of Dark Heaven, you must immediately wipe out Wu Baichuan's blood contract. Understand? Understood. The blood-eyed giant nodded. Qin Feiyang brought the blood-eyed giant back to the Cyclops and asked, City Lord, have you thought of a plan? Yes. The Cyclops nodded. All right. Lure him out of the ancient city of Dark Heaven in 10 breaths. After saying this, Qin Feiyang flew towards Wu Baichuan's group with the blood-eyed giant. Their speed wasn't very fast. 5 breaths later, the two silently landed next to Wu Baichuan. They can't sense us even though we're so close. The blood-eyed giant was even more surprised when he saw that Wu Baichuan's group didn't react. As long as you don't make a sound or release your aura, he won't notice you even if you appear in front of him. Qin Feiyang smiled inwardly. Soon. 10 breaths passed. The Cyclops coughed and looked up at Wu Baichuan. He said loudly, Human, do you know what kind of divine item the ancient city of Dark Heaven is? Wu Baichuan was stunned and looked suspiciously at the Cyclops. Take out the ancient city of Dark Heaven and look carefully at the palace in the center. The Cyclops said. The palace in the center. Wu Baichuan frowned. The Cyclops said, the palace I live in. What do you mean? Wu Baichuan didn't take out the ancient city of dark heaven and asked in confusion. A frog at the bottom of a well. After saying this, the Cyclops didn't say anything else. Wu Baichuan's curiosity was piqued. Seeing that the Cyclops didn't intend to explain, he took out the ancient city of dark heaven. He looked directly at the palace in the center. At this moment, even if it was Qin Feiyang, he wouldn't be suspicious. It was impossible to enter spatial divine items in the Nether King's hell. He didn't have to worry about someone hiding in the dark taking the opportunity to steal it. Moreover, he had already dripped his blood on the ancient city of dark heaven. Even if it was stolen, he could immediately summon it back. Wu Baichuan observed for a while and mumbled, I didn't notice anything different. He looked up at the Cyclops and frowned. What secret is hidden in this ancient city of dark heaven? The Cyclops sneered and didn't answer. Wu Shixiang will definitely fool you and make you panic. Don't believe him. The young woman said. That makes sense. Wu Baichuan nodded and was about to put away the ancient city of dark heaven. But right then, a large hand appeared and grabbed the ancient city of dark heaven before disappearing. Wu Baichuan was stunned. What was going on? The young woman and the others were also shocked. Who is it? The next moment, Wu Baichuan roared. How dare they cause trouble right under his nose? He couldn't forgive them. Poof! However, the moment Wu Baichuan spoke, he spat out a mouthful of blood. He discovered that the blood contract of the ancient city of dark heaven had been forcefully erased. Damn it! Wu Baichuan roared and his aura surged. However, at this moment, Qin Feiyang had already brought the blood-eyed giant back to the Cyclops' side. As Qin Feiyang released his hand, the blood-eyed giant immediately appeared beside the Cyclops. The ancient city of dark heaven was in the hands of the blood-eyed giant. However, Qin Feiyang was still invisible. What? It's him. He can turn invisible. Wu Baichuan and the others stared at the blood-eyed giant in shock. Sir, here you are. The blood-eyed giant was very excited and handed the ancient city of dark heaven to the Cyclops. All right. The Cyclops was also very excited. He grabbed the ancient city of dark heaven and dripped his blood to claim ownership. Bastard! You said we're despicable. I think you're even more despicable. Wu Baichuan roared. He finally realized that the Cyclops was purely luring him to take out the ancient city of dark heaven. We're just taking back what's ours. How can that be considered despicable? The Cyclops sneered. City Lord, don't waste your breath on them. Tell me, how do you want to die? The 20 blood-eyed giants at the Great Perfection Ninth Heaven Realm all took a step forward and looked at the group with murderous intent. The young woman and the others immediately panicked. However, Wu Baichuan didn't panic. He sneered. So what if you've taken back the ancient city of dark heaven? We can still self-destruct. Try to kill us if you can. Ha! The blood demons immediately laughed. Wu Baichuan frowned. They were laughing. What was going on? Do you really think we're afraid of you self-destructing? No. We're only afraid that you'll self-destruct and destroy the ancient city of dark heaven. The 20 blood-eyed giants sneered. What? You're not afraid of us self-destructing? The group of people was startled. They weren't even afraid of self-destructing. That's right. Now that the ancient city of dark heaven is back in my hands, you can self-destruct as you wish. Now, I'll show you the true power of the blood demons. Step back. I'm going to kill them with my own hands. The one-eyed giant stepped forward and shouted at the other blood demons. My lord. You don't need to do anything to deal with these ants. We're enough. The 20 blood-eyed giants at the peak of the ninth heaven's realm said. No. My people died because of me. I have to kill them with my own hands. The one-eyed giant shook his head. The 20 blood-eyed giants looked at each other and quickly retreated. The other blood demons also retreated into the distance. As for Qin Feiyang, he also retreated far away. Roar! The one-eyed giant raised his head and roared. His body immediately swelled up and blood-red hair quickly grew all over his body. A raging aura surged out from the cave. Don't be afraid. He's alone. As long as we work together, killing him won't be a problem. Seeing the flustered young woman and the others, Wu Baichuan hurriedly comforted them and took out his sky piercer. Yes, yes, yes. We still have a chance. Everyone, stay calm. The young woman also shouted. The 100 or so people immediately began to use their divine arts and awaken their divine artifacts to prepare for battle. In the blink of an eye, the one-eyed giant had completely transformed. At this moment, he was 500 meters tall and looked like a mountain. The hair all over his body glowed with a strong blood-red light. His eyes were like two blood-red moons and filled with a murderous aura. The most terrifying thing was his aura. Although this aura was still at the peak 9th heaven realm, Qin Feiyang, Wu Baichuan, and the others could clearly feel that it was much stronger than an ordinary peak 9th heaven realm blood-eye giant. The difference between an ordinary peak 9th heaven realm blood-eye giant and this one-eyed giant was like heaven and earth. There was also the terrifying power in his body. Before the power exploded, the space within tens of thousands of miles could not withstand it and crazily shattered and collapsed. It was hard to imagine how strong the one-eyed giant's physical body was right now. Blood for blood. All of you can go to hell. The one-eyed giant's roar was louder than thunder. It shook Wu Baichuan and the others so much that blood spurted out of their ears. Bang! He took a step forward, causing the earth to tremble and crack apart. Destructive power surged out and instantly razed the land to the ground. Kill! Wu Baichuan roared. The sky halberd fully recovered and charged toward the one-eyed giant with an earth-shattering sharpness. Kill! The young woman and more than 100 people also roared and attacked the one-eyed giant with divine arts and divine artifacts. They were all at the peak 9th heaven realm. Even though they only had the sky halberd, a supreme-level divine artifact, it was already shocking enough. However, the one-eyed giant didn't use any supreme-level divine arts or divine artifacts. He didn't even counterattack. Boom! Clang! In an instant, the divine arts and divine artifacts all hit the one-eyed giant. Isn't he too arrogant? In the distance, when Qin Feiyang saw this scene, he couldn't help but frown. Although the one-eyed giant's energy was very strong, it wasn't wise to use his physical body to fight against divine arts and divine artifacts, especially the sky halberd, which was a supreme-level divine artifact. After all, Wu Baichuan and the others were at the peak 9th heaven realm like the one-eyed giant. Chapter 2596. However, the following scene caused Qin Feiyang to be stupefied. The divine weapons and divine incantations of the group only managed to scratch the surface of the one-eyed giant. Even the sky halberd, a supreme-level divine weapon, only left a 1-meter-long wound on the one-eyed giant's body. A human being would have been seriously injured by a 1-meter-long wound. But one had to know. The one-eyed giant was now 500 meters tall. This wound was like a scratch to him. It didn't hurt at all. Is his body so strong after the transformation? Qin Feiyang was shocked. Wu Baichuan and the others were also dumbfounded. More than 100 peak 9th heaven cultivators attacked with all their strength, but it only caused a minor injury. How strong was the one-eyed giant's body after the transformation? At this moment, everyone could not help but feel a sense of despair. However, the surrounding blood demons had sealed off all paths of retreat. There was simply nowhere to run. Wu Shixiang, I don't want to die. Please, think of a way to get us out of here. The young woman and the others looked at Wu Baichuan helplessly. Wu Baichuan looked gloomy. Get out of here. Don't even think about it. Even if I allow it, my people won't allow it. The one-eyed giant took a step forward and threw a punch at Wu Baichuan and the others. It was simple and violent. That fist was like a small mountain, and it was filled with an imposing aura. Block it! Wu Baichuan shouted, and the sky halberd rushed forward. Clang! In an instant, the fist and the sky halberd collided, and the sky halberd was knocked away. The one-eyed giant's fist didn't stop at all. Hurry up and attack! What are you waiting for? Wu Baichuan roared. The young woman and the others weren't in a daze. They were scared out of their wits. However, after Wu Baichuan roared, the group of people immediately activated their divine weapons and performed their divine arts. Boom! Clang! Following closely, hundreds of divine arts and divine weapons were thrown at the one-eyed giant's fist. Faced with so many divine weapons and divine arts, if it were any other peak 9 heavens realm cultivator, they would definitely flee immediately. Because this was enough to kill everything in an instant. However, the one-eyed giant did not seem to care at all. He smashed his fist down. Crack! Immediately, the god weapons and god arts shattered one after another. That was right. That was to shatter. Even a legendary divine artifact was not spared and shattered into pieces. Not to mention the peak level and peak level divine artifacts, not even a scrap was left. Terrifying. Qin Feiyang mumbled. The power displayed by the one-eyed giant was enough to sweep away all living beings of the same level. Perhaps only heaven-defying divine weapons and divine arts could kill him. It seemed like he had made the right choice. Befriending the blood demon race was the wisest choice. Is he a devil? So ridiculously strong. The young woman and her group once again fell into the abyss of despair. They even forgot that the one-eyed giant's fist was coming towards them. However, Wu Baichuan did not panic. He glanced at the young woman and her group with flickering eyes. Qin Feiyang looked at Wu Baichuan in surprise. How could he still be so calm? Boom! The one-eyed giant's fist struck. Wu Baichuan immediately grabbed the sky halberd and retreated like lightning. The young woman and the others also quickly followed. Hey! Wu Baichuan grinned and waved the sky halberd in his hand. A destructive aura flashed towards the young woman and the others. That was right. He wasn't attacking the one-eyed giant, but the young woman and the others. Wu Shixiang, what are you doing? The young woman said furiously. You're all at the peak 9 heavens state, but you're useless. What's the point of keeping you alive? Wu Baichuan said with disdain. You bastard! The group of people was furious, but there was nothing they could do. The sky halberd in Wu Baichuan's hand could erase all the thoughts in their hearts. A supreme-level divine weapon was like an unsurpassable god of war. There was the sky halberd in front of them and the one-eyed giant's fist behind them. They could be smashed into pieces in an instant. The group of people was desperate to the extreme. Wu Baichuan, you bastard, you want to kill us. Don't even think about escaping. Let's die together. Suddenly, one of the men in black suddenly roared and a destructive aura rushed out of his body. Self-detonation. However, seeing the man in black explode, Wu Baichuan's eyes showed a trace of a smile. But the young woman and the others were terrified. We have no choice but to self-detonate. The man in black sighed. The group of people fell silent. The next moment, a destructive aura rushed out of everyone's body. Their faces were extremely sad. They couldn't blame anyone but themselves for choosing to collude with a villain like Wu Baichuan. This was the consequence of choosing the wrong person. However, the one-eyed giant had no intention of dodging. Boom! The group of people finally self-detonated. A wave of qi that could destroy the world suddenly surged out in all directions, and covered the sky and covered the earth. Whoosh! At the same time, a dazzling blood light emerged from Wu Baichuan's body. Immediately after, Wu Baichuan turned and broke through the air like a bolt of lightning. Where are you going? The one-eyed giant shouted and wanted to chase. But the destructive power of the self-detonation of the young woman and the others sent him flying on the spot. "Stop him!" the one-eyed giant roared. The blood demons in the distance immediately transformed and their cultivation soared. "With just you guys?" Wu Baichuan smiled disdainfully. His speed suddenly soared. It was so fast that even the naked eye couldn't catch him. Like a ghost, he passed through the blood demon's encirclement in an instant and disappeared into the night sky without looking back. Why did he suddenly become so fast? The blood demons were stunned. Qin Feiyang also looked in the direction where Wu Baichuan disappeared in shock. The speed that Wu Baichuan just displayed was already far beyond the ninth heaven stage. How did he do it? Could it be a heaven-defying divine art? But that wasn't right. Hell didn't allow heaven-defying divine arts to be activated. Wait a minute. Bloodlight. Qin Feiyang suddenly recalled the bloodlight that appeared on Wu Baichuan's body before. This seemed to be very similar to a forbidden technique. In other words, Wu Baichuan's sudden increase in speed was most likely because he had activated a god-level forbidden technique. Qin Feiyang looked at the one-eyed giant again. The one-eyed giant was also covered in blood and flesh after being submerged by the air waves from the group of people's self-detonation. However, it didn't look fatal. Because the one-eyed giant didn't fall. He stood in the void like a demon god, looking in the direction where Wu Baichuan disappeared with a fierce look in his eyes. "He's fine." Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He knew. This was the self-detonation of more than 109th heaven stage cultivators at the same time. This power was enough to wipe out everything. But the one-eyed giant was completely fine. This physical body was so strong that it was really unreasonable. Roar! Suddenly, the one-eyed giant roared and a blood light fell from the evil moon and merged into his body. The injuries on his body were instantly healed. Immediately after, the one-eyed giant waved his hand again and forcibly calmed down the waves of self-detonation. "Lord, should we chase?" The 20 blood-eyed giants at the peak of the ninth heavens realm immediately flew in front of the Cyclops and asked. The one-eyed giant was silent. "Chase!" Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's voice sounded in the void, but he didn't appear and was still invisible. The one-eyed giant looked in the direction of the voice. "If I'm not wrong, this Wu Baichuan should have activated some kind of divine-level forbidden technique, which is why his speed became so fast. Usually, activating this kind of forbidden technique requires a great price, so it can't be activated forever. As long as you chase, you can definitely catch up with him," Qin Feiyang said. "Then hurry up and chase. I want him alive." When the Cyclops heard this, he immediately looked at the 20 blood-eyed giants at the peak of the ninth heavens realm and shouted. "Yes." The 20 blood-eyed giants responded and immediately chased after Wu Baichuan with murderous intent. The one-eyed giant also returned to his original form. His hair quickly fell off and his height returned to normal. However, its 50-meter-tall body still gave people a very strong sense of oppression. "Come out." The one-eyed giant scanned the void and said. Qin Feiyang immediately appeared in the void far away. Whoosh! A group of blood demons immediately surrounded Qin Feiyang with murderous intent in their eyes. Qin Feiyang glanced at the blood demons around him, then looked at the one-eyed giant and said with a faint smile, "I believe that the blood demons won't do anything ungrateful. My blood demon race naturally won't." The one-eyed giant said and waved his hand at the blood demons. "My lord, you have to think twice. You can't trust the words of humans." The blood demons all spoke. "I know," the one-eyed giant said and took out the mysterious sky ancient city. Immediately, the palm-sized mysterious sky ancient city quickly enlarged and finally landed on the broken ground with a boom. The ancient city reappeared. In the city, corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river. Looking at all this, the one-eyed giant felt extremely guilty and sighed. "Go and bury your clansmen." "Yes." The surrounding blood demons looked at the sea of corpses in the city and couldn't help but feel sad. They entered the city one after another to collect the corpses of their clansmen. See? This is the masterpiece of you humans. It's impossible for us blood demons to get along peacefully with you humans. The one-eyed giant turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang and shook his head. Qin Feiyang walked to the one-eyed giant's side and sighed. This is war. It's unavoidable. Why can't it be avoided? As long as you humans don't come to the Nether King's hell, all of this won't happen, right? The one-eyed giant said angrily. Qin Feiyang said, then let me ask you, how many times have we humans come to the Nether King's hell? The one-eyed giant frowned and said, on a large scale. It seems to be only this time. That's right. This is the first time we humans have come to the Nether King's hell. If we really want to get to the bottom of it, this debt should be on the dragons' heads. Because it was the dragons who opened the Nether King's hell and let humans in. Qin Feiyang said. Dragons, the one-eyed giant clenched his hands, his eyes full of disgust. Qin Feiyang asked, I believe you have fought with the dragons more than once, right? That's right. The dragons have come to the Nether King's hell several times. Every time, they would snatch one or two heaven-defying divine artifacts from our blood demons. The one-eyed giant nodded.